Chapter 1324. Arg. Just when Qin Wendian was contemplating, Evergreen Yuhao let out a bestial roar. His eyes gleamed with a blood-red light. Although he was bound by the chains, he still struggled, wanting to break free. The blood in his entire body seemed to be roaring as his countenance turned incomparably malevolent. Qin Wendian glanced over as he furrowed his brows. At this moment, Evergreen Yuhao's eyes gleamed with a blood-red light, as though he had entered a demonic state. Qin Wendian radiated the light of truth as his eyes gleamed resplendently, able to see through everything. He directly stared into Evergreen Yuhao's eyes. Through those eyes, he could faintly see two different wills. However, given his current cultivation base, he had no way to see through them. He had no way to see the owner of the other will, he could only see an illusory figure. A miserable scream rang out. Evergreen Yuhao's eyes bled as his entire body started to bleed, transforming into a man of blood. Those immortal kings who captured him were as cold as ever. They glanced at Evergreen Yuhao, and after that, Evergreen Yuhao let out a bestial roar as his blood flowed unceasingly. His aura grew increasingly weaker. Destroying the evidence? Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. Seems like the person who plotted to kill him wasn't simple. That person made use of the fact that the people of the Evergreen Kingdom wouldn't be on guard against Evergreen Yuhao and controlled Evergreen Yuhao to act. Firstly, it would be easier to succeed. Secondly, the mastermind didn't need to be exposed. Assassinating Qin Wendian and Qing'er in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, as long as this was exposed, the mastermind would die for sure. After cultivating to the Immortal King realm, who would be willing to die so easily? There were many death warriors in the Immortal realms, but those at the Immortal King realm were extremely few in number. For lofty Immortal Kings, which one of them would be willing to die together with others? Even if their cultivation bases didn't improve, they could still become hegemons of an area and establish their own sections. Evergreen Yuhao had died. He was killed by Qin Wendian. Naturally, the mastermind must have played a part in this. Staring at the cold corpse, the countenances of the Immortal King army from the Evergreen Kingdom were as cold as ever. They wouldn't care about Evergreen Yuhao's identity. They only received a single mission, and that was to protect Qin Wendian and the princess. No matter what Evergreen Yuhao's identity was, since he had assassinated Qin Wendian, his fate was already sealed. Even if the Evergreen Immortal Emperor couldn't bear to kill him because of their past relationship, he would never be able to climb up again. Princess, young Master Qin, let's return to the palace. The Immortal King beside Qin Wendian continued. Although there wouldn't be any accidents in the royal capital, they still had to be careful. What if someone went crazy? Let's go. Qin Wendian took Qing'er's hand. Your injuries? Qing'er stared at Qin Wendian, whose robes were dyed red with blood. My bloodline recovery ability is very strong. It's not like you don't know this. Qin Wendian smiled. His injuries weren't light, but this wasn't the time to be calculative about this. The group of them stood up and returned to the palace. In the surroundings, there were countless people rushing over, their eyes gleaming as they stared at the departing figures. That should be Princess and Qin Wendian, right? They are truly a pair of immortal companions. Princess Qing'er is just like the rumors, an icy beauty. Qin Wendian is truly powerful, surviving the assassination attempt of an immortal king. Although he was injured, he acted as though nothing had happened to him. That's right, it was a sneak attack by someone familiar. Evergreen Yuhao, his surname is Evergreen. Everyone should be able to guess his identity. Those guards didn't even guard against him. Since Qin Wendian didn't die, it can only be said that his combat prowess is extremely terrifying. Most probably, no one in the Immortal Foundation realm would be stronger than him. The people here were discussing fervently. Behind the crowd, an old man in ragged clothes slowly squeezed his way out. His body was stooped and he raised his head to look at the silhouette in the distance. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he cursed in a low voice, "Trash." Although it seemed like a simple and violent assassination attempt, he had made meticulous preparations for a very long time. If not, how would he be able to see through Evergreen Yuhao's heart and grasp the opportunity when he and Qin Wendian both left the royal palace? For this opportunity, he had waited for 2 months, all for the sake of this one strike. Naturally, 2 months to him couldn't be considered much. Once, in order to kill someone, he had to wait at most 800 years before he found an extremely rare opportunity to do so. What made him infuriated was that even with such an opportunity, he actually failed to kill Qin Wendian. One could only say that Evergreen Yuhao was trash. If he was the one acting, a single strike would be sufficient. But leaving aside whether he could get close to Qin Wendian, even if he could conceal his aura, the moment he acted, he would most probably die in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. He didn't wish to perish together with an immortal Foundation brat. Now, he could only wait for other opportunities. However, if he missed this opportunity, it would be even more difficult to assassinate Qin Wendian in the future. Qin Wendian and Qing'er returned to the royal palace. Upon learning that Qin Wendian was assassinated, the entire royal palace was shaken. There was actually someone who dared to act in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom? Simply audacious. This was simply a provocation to the prestige of the Evergreen Kingdom. I will go look for father. Qing'er spoke in a cold voice the moment she returned to the royal palace. If it was any other matter, she could forget about it. But since Qin Wendian was assassinated, she wouldn't let this matter rest. Evergreen Yuhao was merely a scapegoat. She had to find the mastermind behind this. Before this, when Qin Wendian was assassinated, her heart seemed to have stopped beating. She would never allow such a thing to happen again. Qin Wendian knew how sexy Qing'er was and didn't stop her. He returned to Princess Changping's residence only to see Princess Changping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis walking over. Staring at his blood-stained robes, the Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly asked, was it really done by Evergreen Yuhao? Before this, Evergreen Yuhao had already injured Qin Wendian in the formation. Who would have thought that he would be so brazen as to assassinate Qin Wendian? But there's someone behind this. Evergreen Yuhao seems to be under the control of someone. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed with coldness. How can it be so easy to control someone at the Immortal King realm? His heart must be evil and he had such thoughts. That's why someone could take advantage of this and control his mind. The Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly spoke. This fellow really thinks that his father died in battle for His Majesty. His Majesty didn't announce it because he wanted to save face. Who would have thought that this actually caused him to have wild ambitions? Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. Could it be that there was more to what the Scarlet Eye Marquis said to him earlier? Wendian, this is a secret of our empire. Only an extremely few people know about this. Back then, His Majesty gave the order that no one is allowed to speak of this. Before this, Evergreen Yuhao's father did indeed fight for His Majesty, but after the situation changed, he betrayed the empire and was discovered by the White Emperor. The White Emperor then plotted to destroy Evergreen Yuhao, but because His Majesty wanted to thank him for everything he had done, he gave him the title of died in battle and treated Evergreen Yuhao quite well. As expected, like father like son. The Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly spoke. Only now did Qin Wendian understand. No wonder the Scarlet Eye Marquis was so unhappy with Evergreen Yuhao before this. So there was actually another layer of reason. There were many things that weren't as simple as they seemed to be. Wendian, who do you think the mastermind is? Princess Changping asked. Who else can it be? Naturally, it's those people who initiated the adjudication but failed in the end. Using such a method, we have no way to find out which major power is the mastermind behind this. Hence, it's hard for us to take revenge. Qin Wendian coldly spoke. Other than those major powers, who would be so crazy as to send powerful experts to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom just to kill him, an Immortal Foundation cultivator? Also, the main target was him. They had no killing intent towards Qing'er. Seems like there's no mistake. Princess Changping nodded lightly. Those people acted in the dark. How could the Evergreen Kingdom deal with all the major powers who participated in the adjudication? As long as the other party didn't reveal who the mastermind was, the Evergreen Kingdom could only accept it. Rumble. At this moment, the bodies of Princess Changping and Qin Wendian trembled. Their eyes flickered, and after that, the earth started to tremble unceasingly. In addition, the tremors grew more and more intense. What's going on? The eyes of the few of them gleamed with sharpness. The entire residence was trembling. No, not only the residence, the entire royal palace was trembling, and this trembling grew increasingly intense. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. After that, beams of green light shot up into the sky. Qin Wendian and the others inclined their heads and stared in the direction of the Emperor Palace. In an instant, their eyes froze as they stared in shock at the towering ancient tree. This. Princess Changping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis were also stunned. That ancient tree instantly broke through the ground, shooting up into the sky. Its terrifying trunk directly soared up, blotting out the sun. Beams of green light instantly enveloped the entire royal palace. Eternal evergreen tree. Qin Wendian mumbled. This ancient tree was none other than the ancient tree that accompanied Changqing the Great when the various immortal emperors descended upon the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. At this moment, this towering ancient tree appeared once again. Within the royal palace, the silhouettes of the experts flickered as they floated in the air. They were enveloped by the ancient tree, and all of them had looks of shock in their eyes. The evergreen tree would only appear when the evergreen immortal empire was in danger. At this moment, there seemed to be no one threatening the Evergreen Kingdom. Why did the ancient tree suddenly appear? The speed of the evergreen tree's expansion had reached a terrifying degree, unceasingly enveloping the entire royal palace. Even ordinary immortal emperors wouldn't be able to match the speed of the evergreen tree. The experts of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace once again witnessed the magnificence of the evergreen tree. They inclined their heads as their hearts trembled. What was going on? Changqing the Great's silhouette appeared in the airspace above the Emperor Palace, right before the trunk of the evergreen tree. Great Emperor! The experts stared at the evergreen immortal emperor with bewilderment in their eyes. This city is the royal capital of my empire. If someone dares to wantonly assassinate my daughter and son-in-law in this city, would there still be a day of peace for my evergreen kingdom? The Changqing the Great calmly spoke. No matter who it is, no matter how many people participated in this assassination attempt, as long as they are in the royal capital, they must die. His voice reverberated throughout the royal palace, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. The Evergreen Immortal Emperor summoned the Evergreen Tree because of the assassination attempt on Qin Wendian. At this instant, Qin Wendian's status in the hearts of many experts rose immensely. In fact, they were treating him as a descendant of the Evergreen Immortal Emperor. Chapter 1325. The Eternal Evergreen Tree was a supreme treasure of the Evergreen Kingdom. It wouldn't be used unless there was a war. But now, because of an assassination attempt, it was summoned by the Changqing the Great. From this, one could very well imagine how important Qin Wendian was in the heart of the Changqing the Great. Naturally, there might be another layer of reason. Just like what the Evergreen Great said, even his daughter and son-in-law were assassinated in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. If he didn't find the culprit, wouldn't everyone dare to cause trouble in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom in the future? Even if the culprit was hiding in the shadows, the Changqing the Great still wanted him dead. No matter who it was, no matter how many people participated in this assassination attempt, as long as they were in the royal capital, they must be killed. In the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, countless people inclined their heads, staring at the towering ancient tree. The vast majority of them still had no idea what was going on. They thought that another immortal emperor had invaded the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. The speed at which the eternal evergreen tree expanded was simply too terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it had already reached the location where Qin Wendian was assassinated. The experts there knew what was going on as their hearts trembled. The Changqing the Great actually used the eternal evergreen tree to capture the mastermind? In just an instant, the eternal evergreen tree directly streaked past, covering the entire sky as it continued to extend outwards. Below, a hunchbacked old man abruptly inclined his head. His eyes flashed with a terrifying sharpness. He didn't look old at all. At the next instant, his body trembled slightly. Was the Chongqing the Great crazy? He actually used the eternal evergreen tree for a failed assassination attempt? What was he trying to do? He had lived for countless years and had assassinated countless experts. Even for immortal kings, he had almost never failed. Even if he failed, he would always be able to escape unscathed. As a powerful assassin, he had always felt that completing the mission wasn't the most important thing. Preserving his life would always be the most important. No matter what, he had to ensure his own safety, even if the mission failed. But looking at the gigantic eternal everlasting evergreen tree, he felt a tinge of fear. The Chongqing the Great was determined to find out who the mastermind was. Even though he had a glorious past, he still couldn't help but feel terrified when facing someone like the Chongqing the Great. He wanted to escape the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom. However, when he saw the eternal evergreen tree expanding crazily, he understood that if he tried to escape now, he would be seeking his own death. Soon, the vast and boundless imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom was enveloped by the eternal evergreen tree. Endless green light sprinkled down, and countless experts raised their heads to look at the void, not knowing what was happening. "I am the Evergreen Emperor." A voice suddenly rang out from the eternal evergreen tree. Everyone in the imperial city could hear this voice. This was none other than the Chongqing the Great speaking. "Several months ago, I betrothed my beloved daughter, Qing'er, to Qin Wentian. But today, in the imperial city of my Evergreen Kingdom, my daughter and son-in-law were assassinated." The voice of the Chongqing the Great rang out, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. They finally understood the reason. Princess Qing'er and Qin Wentian, did something happen to them? Luckily, they are fine. The Chongqing the Great continued, however, the mastermind is still in hiding. In the imperial city of my Evergreen Kingdom, in my territory, there's actually someone who dared to assassinate my daughter and son-in-law right under my eyes, let alone the other people in the city. Everyone nodded. They naturally understood why the Chongqing the Great was so angry. Assassinating his daughter and son-in-law right under his eyes, wasn't this a slap to the face of the Chongqing the Great? If the assassination really succeeded, wouldn't the Chongqing the Great and the Evergreen Kingdom become a joke? Hence, I hope that everyone in the imperial city can cooperate with me. All experts at the Immortal King realm and above are to gather in my royal palace. We will investigate them one by one until we find the mastermind. The Chongqing the Great commanded, everyone should be able to understand my intentions. If I discover any immortal kings who didn't come to the royal palace, they will be treated as the assassins. As the sound of his voice faded, the entire imperial city trembled. The Evergreen Emperor gave the order to gather all the experts in the imperial city, making it impossible for the mastermind to escape even if he had wings. Right now, the entire imperial city was sealed by the eternal evergreen tree. No one would be able to escape. As long as someone wanted to flee, the Chongqing the Great would instantly know and kill them. Who would dare to flee? It's our honor to be able to pay our respects to the evergreen tree. An immortal king spoke as he stepped out. Ha, to think that we would have the chance to witness the magnificence of the evergreen tree. We will naturally head there. In the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom, the immortal kings spoke one after another. After that, they stepped out and moved towards the royal palace. The Chongqing the Great was the ruler of the imperial city. Also, there was a reason for everything to happen. Everyone would naturally follow his orders. In an instant, countless immortal kings soared through the air, causing the entire capital to tremble. There were so many experts here, and all of them were immortal kings. This place was as expected of the royal capital of the Immortal Empire, the most prosperous and powerful place in the world. At this moment, within the royal palace, the nobility was shaken. Qin Wentian himself was also incomparably shocked. Because of a single assassination attempt, the Evergreen Emperor was enraged. He activated the eternal evergreen tree and sealed the entire imperial city, ordering all the immortal kings to gather in the royal palace. Clearly, no one expected the reaction of the Evergreen Emperor would be so intense. The army moved out, preparing to maintain order. The Changqing the Great's body seemed to have fused into the eternal evergreen tree. He controlled the evergreen tree, becoming one with the tree. The evergreen tree enveloped the entire imperial city, and was like his eyes. At this moment, he could clearly see the movements of the entire imperial city. Numerous immortal kings gathered in the direction of the royal palace. They were summoned to a large public square by the army there. These people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The body of the Evergreen Emperor had fused into the ancient tree, exuding an unmatched magnificence. All of them bowed and greeted, "We pay our respects to the Evergreen Emperor." To the people of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, the Changqing the Great was a supreme existence, a saint in their hearts. Even if this incident didn't happen, they had always hoped to be able to personally witness the glory of the Evergreen Emperor. Today, it could be said that their wish was finally fulfilled. Within the imperial city, that stooped old man was still hiding himself, like an ordinary old man. He didn't dare to reveal his aura and didn't dare to head to the royal palace. He was very clear that not only was there the Changqing the Great in the royal palace, there was also the White Emperor. With the two of them present, no matter how well he hid himself, he would definitely be discovered. In addition, as an assassin, he naturally heard of how powerful the supreme guardian treasure of the Evergreen Kingdom was. Right now, he didn't know whether he should move or not. He was thinking in his heart that he had roamed the immortal realms unhindered, killing countless people. But now, was he going to fall here in the royal palace? 2 hours later, there were already many experts arriving at the royal palace. However, the Changqing the Great didn't bother to investigate them. Instead, he spoke, "If there are still immortal kings who have yet to come to the royal palace, I will personally invite all of you over." His voice was transmitted through the evergreen tree. Everyone in the royal palace could hear it. Who would dare to disobey his command? This place was the royal palace. The Changqing the Great ruled everything under the heavens. Who would dare to disobey him? Very swiftly, more and more immortal kings gathered in the royal palace. Only when there was no one left in the air did the Changqing the Great continue, "Everyone in the royal palace, stand at your original location." As the sound of his voice rang out, the entire imperial city trembled. Following which, countless branches of the everlasting evergreen tree swayed and swept downwards. Rays of green light shot out from the branches, aiming for the crowd. Everyone, regardless of young or old, regardless of their cultivation bases, were all bound by the branches of the evergreen tree. Nobody dared to resist the Changqing the Great. These branches were like the eyes of the Changqing the Great, monitoring everything in the royal palace. Nobody dared to move recklessly. The jade-green branches transformed into motes of light, slowly seeping into the bodies of the crowd. The crowd watched nervously, allowing the motes of light to seep into their bodies. However, at this moment, there were also people who started trembling. An example was a middle-aged immortal king. He was extremely nervous, and just when the motes of light entered his body, he suddenly spoke in a loud voice, "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I have no intention of concealing my cultivation base. I will head to the royal palace now." He didn't expect that the evergreen tree would have such a miraculous effect. As the sound of his voice faded, rustling sounds rang out as beams of light cascaded downwards. Boundless evergreen vines coiled around his body, instantly engulfing him within the void. After which, the vines rapidly moved towards the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. In another direction, the sloppy-looking old man suddenly started to panic. He had always thought that his concealment abilities were extremely strong. But when the jade-green light seeped into his body, sensing the energy within his body, he finally understood how terrifying the supreme treasure of the Evergreen Kingdom, the Evergreen Tree, was. Boom! His body soared up into the air. At this instant, a terrifying might erupted forth from him. His hunched back instantly straightened as he fled into the distance. Numerous jade-green vines slashed down from the sky, instantly sealing off all his escape routes. Following which, countless vines swept over, sealing off the entire space in an instant. The sloppy old man's body finally began to tremble in fear. Immortal emperors, were they really so easy to antagonize? This was especially so for the Chongqing the Great, the evergreen immortal emperor. Was it really that fun to assassinate his son-in-law? Very swiftly, his body was dragged towards the direction of the evergreen immortal empire. Not only him and that old man from before, there were actually over 10 immortal kings who were proficient in concealment within the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. At this instant, all of them were exposed without exception, and were dragged towards the palace by the evergreen tree. Very swiftly, these 10+ people appeared within the palace. They were bound by the vines, and their bodies seemed to have been penetrated by the energy of the evergreen tree. They appeared extremely weak, and were like criminals being dragged in the air by the vines. Right above the public square where all the immortal kings were gathered, countless immortal kings inclined their heads and stared at these figures, silently praising the evergreen immortal emperor for doing what he said. For those who didn't move, the evergreen immortal emperor personally acted to capture them. Qin Wendian also arrived here. He inclined his head and stared at the 10+ figures in the air as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. There were so many people behind the scenes. Chapter 1326. The silhouette of the Chongqing the Great flickered as he appeared before those tied-up experts, personally interrogating them. You guys better explain yourselves clearly. If not, you should know the consequences. These people all had ashen expressions, knowing that it was impossible for them to survive. Some of them were silently cursing, wondering who it was exactly that assassinated Qin Wendian and Qing'er, causing all of them to be dragged out. After entering the royal palace, they knew that they wouldn't be able to escape. Hence, they harbored a sliver of hope and didn't dare to take the initiative to approach. But who would have thought that under the evergreen tree, their concealment techniques would be so easily seen through? Although the evergreen emperor was in the royal palace, he could sense everything. The cultivation bases of everyone in the royal palace couldn't be hidden from him. Your Majesty, please spare our lives. I'm someone from the Dongshengshan Gate and was only ordered to guard the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. I've never done anything that would harm the reputation of the Evergreen Kingdom. It's only because I was worried that your Majesty might misunderstand, I didn't dare to come to the royal palace myself. I beg for your Majesty's forgiveness. Everyone instantly understood that he was a spy arranged by the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor to infiltrate the royal palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire. Such a matter was very common, it was common for the various major powers to do so. This was especially so during this sensitive period of time. It was just that no one expected the Evergreen Immortal Emperor to be so enraged that he would flip the entire royal palace upside down. The Chongqing the Great coldly glanced at him. After that, he turned to the others and asked, "Who is the mastermind?" As the sound of his voice faded, everyone could feel the coldness radiating from the Evergreen Emperor. If I'm willing to tell you who the mastermind is, would your Majesty spare my life? At this moment, a voice drifted over. It was none other than the sloppy-looking old man. He knew that it was impossible for him to escape. Right now, he could only hope that he could preserve his life. As an assassin, survival was the #1 priority. Right now, he had to think of a way to preserve his life. The Chongqing the Great glanced at him coldly. With a wave of his hand, an expert walked out from the direction of the Immortal Empire. The eyes of this expert were extremely terrifying, and it was clear with a single glance that he was proficient in some unique arts. The sloppy-looking old man turned as pale as paper, he instantly guessed what the expert of this expert was. The vines on his body frenziedly drilled into his body, destroying everything within. The sloppy-looking old man screamed in agony, "Great Emperor, please spare me. If you cooperate, I can spare your life." A powerful immortal king beside Chongqing the Great stepped out. His eyes gleamed with a demonic light as he tried to corrode the mind of the sloppy old man. The sloppy old man screamed unceasingly. He could resist with his life, but not everyone would be willing to die. Amidst the screams, the immortal king beside Chongqing the Great obtained the information he wanted to know. The demonic glint in his eyes disappeared. He took a step back and said to the Chongqing the Great, "Your Majesty, the mastermind intentionally hid his identity. He himself does not know who the mastermind is." The eyes of the Chongqing the Great flashed. In that case, he wouldn't be able to find the mastermind. Swishing sounds rang out. After the vines crippled the sloppy-looking old man, they dragged him to a faraway location and tossed him out of the royal capital. The consequences for a powerful immortal king was extremely tragic. "Your Majesty, these people might know something." That immortal king spoke to the Chongqing the Great, his words causing the expressions of these people to change, all of them turning pale. Since the mastermind is so cautious, he wouldn't leave any flaws. These people are only here to monitor the situation, they wouldn't know anything else. The evergreen immortal emperor calmly spoke. After that, swishing sounds rang out once more as the vines directly dragged those immortal kings into the trunk of the ancient evergreen tree, swallowing them whole. Numerous screams of misery rang out as those 10+ immortal kings directly vanished from this world, killed by the vines. This scene caused the hearts of the immortal kings in the public square to tremble. This was the prestige of a great emperor. That sloppy-looking old man who was crippled and tossed out, or these people who were killed, who was more miserable? Most probably, nobody could say for sure. But clearly, this time around, everyone in the eastern regions had witnessed the fury of the great emperor. From now on, no one would dare to cause trouble in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. That was simply courting death. The Chongqing the Great waved his hand. Instantly, the evergreen tree moved, emitting swishing sounds. In this boundlessly vast royal capital, the leaves and branches of the evergreen tree frenziedly retracted. Not long after, it transformed back into an ancient tree and sank into the ground. The towering ancient tree vanished, as though nothing had happened at all. The Chongqing the Great spoke to the immortal kings in the public square, "I've troubled all of you to make a trip here. Your Majesty is too polite. To be able to personally witness the might of a great emperor, it's the fortune of 3 lifetimes." The immortal kings all bowed, extremely polite. Although they could be considered experts of an area, the person before them was the ruler of an immortal empire. "Emicham, everyone can return to your places." The Chongqing the Great calmly spoke. After that, the immortal kings all bowed and retreated. After that, their silhouettes flickered as they left the royal palace. The eyes of the Chongqing the Great gleamed with sharpness as he stared at the silhouettes of these immortal kings. He knew that among these immortal kings, there would definitely be people from the other major powers present. It was impossible for the major powers of the eastern regions to only have 10 or so people stationed in the royal capital. It was just that if these people didn't do anything, he couldn't be bothered to drag them all out. After all, this was a rule that the major powers abided by. His men were also stationed there. Today, he had already achieved his goal of intimidating these immortal kings. If they wanted to cause trouble in the royal capital, they would have to pay the price. "You guys can leave as well." The Chongqing the Great waved his hands as the immortal kings of the eastern regions all retreated. However, all of them felt some emotions in their hearts. Ever since the civil war that year, everyone felt that the Evergreen Kingdom was a pushover. Just a mere immortal king actually dared to come to the royal capital to assassinate the Evergreen Kingdom. Today, the anger of the Evergreen Emperor had truly taught the people of the eastern regions a lesson on how to conduct themselves. However, this time around, the anger of the Evergreen Emperor was because of Qin Wentian. Before the immortal kings left, all of them cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian. For some unknown reason, an extremely ridiculous thought appeared in their hearts. Given his outstanding talent, if he continued to grow, he would surely reach a shocking height, even surpassing the descendants of the Evergreen Emperor. In that case, the future successor of the Evergreen Kingdom wouldn't be the prince consort of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, right? When they thought of this, their hearts trembled, not daring to think too deeply. They only remembered that they had to treat Qin Wentian the same way they would treat a prince consort in the future. It was unknown when Qing appeared beside Qin Wentian. She lightly held on to Qin Wentian's hand. "Qing Wentian, follow me." The Chongqing the Great spoke to Qing and Qin Wentian. After that, he stepped out and walked towards the Emperor Palace. Qin Wentian and Wentian nodded. They followed behind the Chongqing the Great and entered the residence of the Chongqing the Great. The Chongqing the Great walked towards the pavilion by the lake, his back facing Qin Wentian and Qing'er. Qing'er, Wentian, what do the two of you think about the marriage? The Chongqing the Great asked. Qin Wentian and Qing'er exchanged mutual glances. Before this, Qing'er joked with Qin Wentian, asking if they could do it twice. However, when the Chongqing the Great asked, it was impossible for them to reply in such a manner. Your Majesty, what do you think? Qin Wentian consulted. This matter was a major matter to Qing'er. The Chongqing the Great's opinion was naturally extremely important. I've announced to the world that I've betrothed Qing'er to you. This matter is already set in stone. Right now, the major powers of the eastern regions are all eyeing the two of you. I have a premonition that if the two of you hold the wedding, things wouldn't be peaceful. The Chongqing the Great calmly spoke. As immortal emperors, their instincts were naturally much sharper compared to ordinary people. In addition, even Qin Wentian had the same intuition as the Chongqing the Great. Even before their wedding, the other party already couldn't control themselves and sent assassins, wanting to kill Qin Wentian. Although no one knew who the assassins were, everyone could guess that it had something to do with those major powers. Wentian, the you now is still too weak. The Chongqing the Great spoke again. Qin Wentian fell silent. He knew that Chongqing the Great was speaking the truth. The peak level of Immortal Foundation was already considered extremely powerful to ordinary people. But if he had to face the major powers of the immortal realms, he would naturally be very weak. Chongqing Yuhao's assassination attempt almost took his life. Hence, I hope that after you break through to the Immortal King realm, I will allow the two of you to get married. Although you won't be able to control the situation after that, at the very least, you would have some strength to protect yourself and wouldn't end up in such a miserable state. The Chongqing the Great continued. Qin Wentian nodded, I'll listen to your Majesty's arrangements. It's good that you can understand. Right now, I can also be considered a true elder of yours. I'm naturally doing this for your own good. The Chongqing the Great turned and stared at Qin Wentian. Right now, your cultivation base has already reached the peak level of Immortal Foundation. At this level, it's very hard for you to find an opponent. Hence, before this, I sent Immortal Kings to spar with you. But that was merely sparring, there's no pressure. You still have to walk out on your own. If not, even if you have already taken a step out, I don't know how many years it would take for you to reach the shore. Qing'er, it's the same for you as well. You are an innate immortal king and have innate talent in spatial energy. In the future, this threshold would be weaker for you, but you still have to work hard to raise your cultivation base. You should temporarily set aside your emotions and focus on your cultivation. Wentian wants to break through to the Immortal King realm, you as well. The Chongqing the Great seriously spoke. He naturally hoped that his daughter and son-in-law would be strong enough to handle all the changes in the future. Although the immortal realm seemed calm on the surface, once a storm arose, it would definitely shake the heavens and earth. Just like this time around, if they lost the adjudication battle, there would definitely be a storm of blood. But now, their victory merely delayed the storm. Oh. Qing'er calmly replied, as though she wasn't happy. When the Chongqing the Great saw her expression, he couldn't help but to sigh in his heart. This lass's emotions were too deep. Wentian, you should have seen the assassination attempt this time around. Countless eyes are staring at you. If you want to head out to temper yourself, you can't let others know of this. Also, it's best if you don't head to the eastern regions. Think about where you want to head to, there's a teleportation array here that leads to the Namhuang clan. If you are willing, you can use the Namhuang clan as a middleman. The Chongqing the Great spoke. I plan to make a trip back to the immortal Qianbian Gate first. Qin Wentian replied, as though he had his own thoughts. He was preparing to head to the Heavenly Talisman realm. If he could meet with Senior, he would ask Senior to send him to the other regions through the Heavenly Talisman realm. Chapter 1327. Changqing the Great naturally wouldn't influence Qin Wentian's thoughts. Right now, the Evergreen Kingdom Palace also had a teleportation array that led directly to the immortal Qianbian Gate. Qin Wentian reluctantly parted ways with Qing'er and returned to the immortal Qianbian Gate. Immortal Qianbian Gate, in Qin Wentian's residence, after spending a day with his family, Qin Wentian, Mo Qingcheng, Purgatory and Little Rascal were together. Qin Wentian spoke, "I'm preparing to enter closed-door seclusion. I'm not sure how long it will take, but it might take a very long time. I will only exit seclusion after I break through to the immortal king realm. I've only returned for a few months and I'm already in closed-door seclusion again. How boring." Little Rascal spoke in a baby voice. "Don't be idle. I've already requested the Taishan Immortal King. After I enter closed-door seclusion, someone will bring you and Purgatory to the desolate mountain range in the northern regions. You have to take good care of Purgatory for me." Qin Wentian rapped Little Rascal on its head. Little Rascal instantly leaped up and glared at Qin Wentian. "The legendary desolate 10,000 mountain range, the world of demonic beasts. Can you bear to send me to such a cruel place?" "I can." Qin Wentian impolitely nodded. "Qingcheng." Little Rascal stared at Mo Qingcheng with a look of grievance, pleading for help. "Little Rascal, you are too lazy. Don't waste your talent. The desolate 10,000 mountain range is a paradise for demonic beasts. Maybe, you might be able to meet your kind there." Mo Qingcheng smiled. "Hell for demonic beasts." Little Rascal's lips twitched as he stared at Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng, feeling wronged. In truth, Qin Wentian also couldn't bear to do this. However, he had never treated Little Rascal and Purgatory as his pets. Although they were demonic beasts, they still needed to have their own world. In that case, they had to go out and roam the world. Now that their cultivation bases weren't low, no matter how he thought about it, the desolate 10,000 mountain range was the most suitable place for them. "Remember to protect Purgatory. Otherwise, I'll settle the score with you." Qin Wentian knocked on the little fellow's head. "Oh, little Purgatory, be good. You have to listen to me more." Little Rascal leaped onto Purgatory's shoulder and stretched out his paws, gently stroking Purgatory's hair. This caused Purgatory to roll her eyes as a look of disdain appeared on her face. "Go ahead." Qin Wentian smiled at his two companions. Purgatory nodded her head lightly and brought Little Rascal away. Mo Qingcheng leaned on Qin Wentian and spoke in a gentle voice, "His Majesty has already betrothed elder sister Qing'er to you. Have you decided on the date of the wedding? This time around, I'm in seclusion precisely for this matter. I encountered some troubles in the Evergreen Kingdom. The powers that lost the adjudication battle are still unwilling to give up. I'll wait until I break through to the Immortal King realm before discussing the wedding." Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. "Qingcheng, this time around, I've also asked the Emperor Lord to make some arrangements for you. I want to send you under the tutelage of an immortal emperor for cultivation. You won't blame me, right?" "I'll listen to you." Mo Qingcheng smiled. Qingcheng, since you can enter the Tiandao Sacred Academy, your talent is already very impressive. You have to work hard in your cultivation and catch up to me in the future." Qin Wentian pulled Qingcheng into his embrace. His so-called seclusion naturally meant that he would directly head to the Heavenly Talisman Realm. The Heavenly Talisman Realm had its own rules and no one was allowed to divulge any information. If he were to enter seclusion, it would undoubtedly be the safest. No one would discover him and Qingcheng wouldn't need to worry about him. As for sending Qingcheng to cultivate there, he had always thought about it. It's just that in the past, Qingcheng's talent was on the weaker side. Even if an immortal king were to guide her, there wouldn't be too much of a problem. Now that Qingcheng had experience in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, there shouldn't be too much of a problem if she was sent under the tutelage of an immortal emperor. Not only so, this time around, he would also send Sis Luo Huan, Sis Qin Yao and the others to various places to cultivate. The war between the Dongshengshan Gate and the immortal Qianbian Gate had never ceased. Back then, there was even the incident of Qin Yao and Luo Huan encountering danger. Even the Cloud Prefecture city wasn't absolutely safe. It would be too boring to let them stay in the immortal sect forever. Also, even if their talent was weaker, they still needed to raise their cultivation bases or they would age easily. As for himself, if there weren't any major incidents, Qin Wendian didn't intend to return before he broke through to the immortal king realm. This was his determination. After several days of gathering, the immortal Qianbian Gate sent Qin Wendian's family and friends to various places to cultivate. Little Rascal and Purgatory also left, being sent to the desolate 10,000 mountain range in the extreme north of the immortal realms. Qingchen also left. Although she was reluctant, she left with a smile on her face. She knew that it was time for her to focus on her cultivation. She also understood that Qin Wendian's future lay in the vast starry space. There was no need for her to become so strong, but at the very least, she mustn't fall too far behind. Qin Wendian finally set his heart at ease and entered closed-door seclusion. After that, he used a secret art to open up an entrance to the Heavenly Talisman Realm and entered alone. Within the Heavenly Talisman Realm, there were green mountains and clear waters, like an otherworldly immortal realm. Qin Wendian drew in a deep breath as a smile appeared on his face. It has been a very long time since he came to the Heavenly Talisman Realm. Back then when he entered the Heavenly Talisman Realm, he had yet to become an immortal. Now, he was already at the peak stage of immortal foundation. However, there were many immortal emperors and immortal kings in the Heavenly Talisman Realm. There was naturally nothing for him to be proud of. His silhouette flickered as Qin Wendian continued on his way. Along the way, there were many experts flying through the air. Occasionally, there would be people who would nod their heads at Qin Wendian and Qin Wendian would naturally return the gesture with a smile. Qin Wendian directly came before the gigantic statue of the Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord. Staring at the gigantic statue, Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice, "Master, I've encountered a bottleneck in my cultivation this time around. I have no idea when I would be able to break through to the immortal king realm. I hope that I would be able to receive some guidance from Master." After speaking, Qin Wendian's silhouette flickered as he flew towards the Heavenly Talisman Palace in the hands of the statue. Just so coincidentally, there was no one in the Heavenly Talisman Palace, hence, Qin Wendian directly entered. Within the Heavenly Talisman Palace, Qin Wendian walked to the central area and sat down cross-legged. Golden light illuminated the sky as a painting appeared. Boundless runic light cascaded down on Qin Wendian, bathing him within. Within the Heavenly Talisman Palace, there was the Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome. This was a sacred cultivation treasure left behind by his master, the Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord. It was all-encompassing and different cultivation bases would be able to gain different insights. Qin Wendian's aura gushed forth as his perfect saint-grade immortal foundation gushed forth. Law energy permeated the air. Instantly, his surroundings were filled with the energy he cultivated. Instantly, beams of runic light gushed into Qin Wendian's sea of consciousness. He quietly closed his eyes as he absorbed everything. This was the second time Qin Wendian cultivated in the Heavenly Talisman Palace. The Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome was about the great Tao of runes. It believed that everything in the world was born from runic inscriptions. Astral energy and runic inscriptions were the foundation of cultivation, while runic inscriptions could aid one's astral energy to communicate with the heavens and earth. This was the law language of the great Tao. This time around, the treasured tome that was imprinted in Qin Wendian's sea of consciousness caused him to have a brand new comprehension. He was completely immersed in it, unable to extricate himself from it. The Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome dissected the great Tao of cultivation from the very basics, causing one to feel that the great Tao was the simplest. It was very easy to accept. For example, when astral energy and the law language runic inscriptions fused together to a certain degree, one would be able to unleash law energy. As for astral souls, stellar martial cultivators had different law attributes. Hence, the laws they created would also be different. However, when cultivators cultivate, they wouldn't try to comprehend the innate nature of cultivation. They would cultivate with the flow of nature instead. This was like a child learning how to speak. He didn't learn the language, but after listening to it, he would naturally be able to speak. Although there seemed to be no difference, only by truly learning the language would one be able to comprehend the deeper meaning behind it. Hence, understanding the innate nature of cultivation was naturally beneficial to one's cultivation. This was especially so when one reached Qin Wentian's current cultivation realm. In the future, the reliance on one's comprehension abilities would only grow stronger. In that case, what was the Immortal King realm? How could one break through to the Immortal King realm? Maybe, everyone who broke through to the Immortal King realm would have a different path. They would use different methods and different insights to break through. But there was one point that was the same for all of them. That was to perfect their law domains and form a perfect body of laws. But if that was the case, how could one achieve all of this? The Heavenly Talisman treasured tome didn't tell Qin Wentian anything. In fact, it was completely cut off. This was an important step on the path of cultivation and one had to depend on oneself to cross it. Although both of them were at the Immortal King realm, the disparity between them would be extremely great. This was because everyone's astral souls were different and their law attributes were different. Everyone's path of comprehending law energy was different as well. The power of the innate techniques born from each of them would differ greatly as well. If not, why would Bai Wuya be able to suppress all the immortal kings in the particle world when they were all at the Immortal King realm? On what basis did he slay Deep Flame in a single battle, not even giving his opponent the chance to flee? Qin Wentian quietly contemplated in the Heavenly Talisman Palace for several months. He didn't use the innate treasure tome to comprehend the innate techniques but was purely focused on comprehending his cultivation base. His current goal was only to step into the Immortal King realm. Today, Qin Wentian walked out of the Heavenly Talisman Palace. Outside the palace, there was an expert quietly sitting there with his eyes closed in cultivation. As though he sensed something, he opened his eyes and stared at Qin Wentian. "Senior brother." Qin Wentian nodded to this person. "A newly joined junior brother?" The disciples of the Heavenly Talisman realm weren't familiar with each other. Hence, this person asked. "I've already joined for many years and right now I'm stuck at the peak of Immortal Foundation, searching for an opportunity to break through." Qin Wentian smiled. "Junior brother wishes to head out to temper myself. Does senior brother know of any suitable locations?" So this is the case. The immortal realms are boundlessly vast and there are plenty of good fortune there. Everything depends on your luck and there's no way to say which location is the most suitable. Just follow your heart." That person laughed. "Many thanks senior brother. It's just that junior brother opened the entrance to the Heavenly Talisman realm from the eastern regions. If I exit this place, I can only return to where I came from. However, junior brother wishes to head to the northern regions. Does senior brother know of any places where I can find a senior brother to bring me out?" Qin Wentian humbly spoke. The rules of the Heavenly Talisman realm were as such. Since he opened the entrance to the Heavenly Talisman realm from the eastern regions, he could only return to where he came from. There was no way for him to exit the Heavenly Talisman realm from the other entrances unless he followed someone else out. There are many fellow apprentices staying in that direction and they would occasionally exchange information. You can go there to seek help. That immortal king pointed to a direction. Qin Wentian nodded, "Many thanks senior brother." After speaking, he bid his farewell. Although it has been many years since he entered the Heavenly Talisman realm, he was still unfamiliar with it. Chapter 1328. Qin Wentian followed the direction pointed out by that senior brother and as expected, he came to a place where many residences could be seen. There were many residences here and they were all closely connected. Also, there were actually many senior brothers and sisters here. Some were cultivating, some were playing chess, and there were even some who were chatting idly. Seems like the Heavenly Talisman realm was the same as well. There were all kinds of characters here. Although the disciples of the Heavenly Talisman realm didn't interfere with each other, there were still some who liked to gather together for small gatherings. In the Heavenly Talisman realm, they were all senior and junior brothers. In the outside world, they were just ordinary friends or even strangers. Naturally, given how vast the immortal realms were, the disciples of the Heavenly Talisman realm all had their own paths of cultivation. If they didn't accept the same mission, it wouldn't be easy for them to bump into each other. In addition, Qin Wendian discovered a unique point. Almost everyone here was at the Immortal King realm. Junior brother pays my respects to senior brothers and sisters. Qin Wendian landed in a place with more people. There were some playing chess and some sipping tea. After Qin Wendian landed, he bowed slightly to show his respect. "Oh, it's junior brother Qin. What's the matter?" Someone turned his gaze over and smiled when he saw Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian glanced at one of them. He didn't know this senior brother, but this person directly referred to him as junior brother Qin. Clearly, this person was acquainted with him. "Senior brother, have you met me before?" Qin Wendian curiously asked. "You are so famous, it's normal to see you in the crowd." "Everyone, this little fellow is none other than the junior brother Qin Wendian who caused such a huge commotion in the eastern regions." That immortal king laughed. Many people turned their gazes to Qin Wendian, surveying him, causing Qin Wendian to feel somewhat awkward. "That fellow Bai Wuya recommended you here, right? That fellow's cultivation is extremely high and his judgment is also good." Someone spoke with envy. "Yeah, back then when I first entered the Heavenly Talisman realm, that brat Bai Wuya was still playing around somewhere. Who would have thought that he would grow more and more powerful as time passed? Right now, he has yet to exit the Tiandao Sacred Academy. I wonder how he is doing." "Junior brother Qin, when are you going to marry the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom?" someone asked with a smile. Although Qin Wendian's current cultivation base was slightly lower, these people also understood that for someone who could cause such chaos in the eastern regions when he was only at the Immortal Foundation realm, his future accomplishments would definitely be limitless. In addition, just the people who were related to him were already extremely outstanding. Emperor Qianbian, Changqing the Great, immortal emperors of the Namhuang clan. Naturally, those who understood this were mainly those who were active in the eastern regions. The immortal realms were simply too vast, people from the other regions weren't so clear about the situation there. Junior is also worried about this matter. "Right now, many major powers are eyeing me and it's hard for me to move about in the eastern regions. Since I'm at the threshold of the Immortal King realm, I wish to head to the northern regions to temper myself. I wonder which senior brother can bring me there." Qin Wendian spoke. "You wish to head to the northern regions?" A senior brother glanced at Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian nodded. "I do know of a good place. There's a place in the northern regions that is very suitable for you to cultivate." That immortal king spoke. "Are you talking about the Dark North Immortal Mountain?" Someone beside him laughed. "That's right. The Dark North Immortal Mountain is also known as the Immortal Mountain of Laws. Many people from the other regions of the immortal realms didn't mind traversing vast distances just to attempt to break through to the Immortal King realm." That's indeed a good place. Also, given junior brother Qin's talent, there naturally wouldn't be any problems for you to head there. Since you came from the northern regions, why don't you bring junior brother Qin there?" An older Immortal King's senior brother spoke. The person who spoke earlier nodded his head and stared at Qin Wendian. "Shall we head there now?" "If senior brother has no problems, we can head there now." Qin Wendian nodded. "I'm fine, let's go." That senior brother stood up. After that, his silhouette flashed as Qin Wendian followed after him. At the same time, he didn't forget to clasp his hands to everyone. "Many thanks, senior brothers." Everyone stared at the departing back of Qin Wendian as they laughed. This little fellow was truly humble. If he continued on this path, he might even be stronger than Bai Wuya in the future. The two of them came to a certain location in the Heavenly Talisman realm. That senior brother at the Immortal King realm formed a spatial gate, allowing them to see the situation outside. That place seemed to be a cultivation ground, with fiery energy circulating around it. Before this, I was in closed-door seclusion there. After that, I directly came to the Heavenly Talisman realm. Let me bring you out first before we return. The Immortal King spoke as he led Qin Wendian out, directly traversing through space and arriving at the cultivation ground. A terrifying heat instantly caused Qin Wendian to feel extremely unbearable. The Immortal King unleashed his law might, enveloping Qin Wendian. After that, he stretched out his palm, causing the fire law energy in this space to gradually dissipate. The law energy on the barrier of fire also gradually dissipated. There are people outside, but you should be able to handle them. I'll return first. The Immortal King waved his hand and left, directly sending Qin Wendian back to the northern regions of the Immortal Realms. Boom! At this moment, the fiery immortal wall ahead exploded as the law flames danced wildly. Qin Wendian turned his gaze outwards only to see that there were actually two groups of experts fighting each other. However, at this instant, all of them stopped and turned their gazes to Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian still didn't understand what was going on. A cold voice drifted over. Who are you? What treasures did you obtain in this treasure ground? The person who spoke was a young man. His gaze was sharp and exuded a pressure. His cultivation base was at the 7th level of Immortal Foundation as he coldly stared at Qin Wendian. Treasure ground? Treasure. Qin Wendian silently mused. After that, he understood. This senior brother of his was a powerful Immortal King. Even though this place was a place for closed-door seclusion, it became a place where these people couldn't enter. They all mistook this place for a treasure ground and thought that there were treasures within, forming a fiery wall. Qin Wendian's gaze was cold as he glanced at that young man. He didn't reply. On the other side, an old man's eyes gleamed brightly as he surveyed Qin Wendian's body. After that, he probed, "Is Senior the one cultivating here?" This old man was extremely cautious. He couldn't sense Qin Wendian's aura, but for some senior characters, if they intentionally concealed their auras, they would be like Qin Wendian right now. Hence, he had some suspicions. Qin Wendian also calmly glanced at him and didn't say anything. An old man referring to him as senior, although it was a little comical, it was still considered appropriate in terms of cultivation base. Even if he wasn't an Immortal King, his cultivation base was still higher compared to the 7th level of Immortal Foundation. The eyes of the young man flickered when he heard the old man's words. He was filled with suspicions. Although Qin Wendian's aura was extraordinary, he was so young and didn't have the demeanor of an Immortal King. Most probably, he was here to steal treasures. Sir, who are you? If you obtained any treasures, please hand them over. The young man spoke again, but this time around, his tone was a little warmer. Most probably, he was trying to probe Qin Wendian. Scram. Qin Wendian glanced over as he spoke to the young man. A moment later, the young man's expression froze, becoming extremely unsightly to behold. What arrogant words! Could it be that this person was truly a senior who cultivated here? The young man felt a little tempted. He wanted to test Qin Wendian's cultivation base, but he didn't dare to act recklessly. If Qin Wendian was truly an Immortal King, they would simply be courting death if they acted against him. You can't hear me. Qin Wendian frowned as a faint killing intent gushed forth. The expression of the young man changed again. He cast a deep glance at Qin Wendian and clasped his hands. Farewell. After speaking, he waved his hand and brought his men away. His decisiveness was truly decisive. Clearly, he didn't dare to take the risk of probing Qin Wendian. Junior is from the Wan clan of Skyflame City. I pay my respects to Senior. The old man clasped his hands to Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian nodded lightly, exuding an unfathomable aura as he asked, I'm currently cultivating here. How far is Skyflame City from the Dark North Immortal Mountain? In the Heavenly Talisman realm, the only information he obtained was about the Dark North Immortal Mountain. He naturally wanted to go there to take a look. The eyes of the old man gleamed with sharpness. The Dark North Immortal Mountain. Seems like an expert who just broke through to the Immortal King realm wanted to use the Dark North Immortal Mountain to stabilize his foundation. Senior, the Dark North Immortal Mountain is a sacred ground of our Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and is located in the Dark North Royal City. Skyflame City is one of the cities of our dynasty, and now is the time for the Dark North Immortal Mountain to be opened. There are people from my one clan who want to head there as well. Why don't Senior follow me back to the clan and we can head there together? The old man invited Qin Wentian. Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. In the Tiandao Sacred Academy, Li Yufeng's girlfriend Bai Mingnongyue should be a princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. In addition, she also has an incomparably beautiful elder sister, Princess Kitamura. Right now, she should be the same as senior brother Bai Wuya, still cultivating in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Other than knowing these two, Qin Wentian knew nothing about the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. In fact, he didn't even know anything about the Dark North Immortal Mountain he wanted to head to. Right now, he truly needed to gather some information. Okay, I will head there with you. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. It would be my honor. That old man happily spoke. Senior, please. Qin Wentian stepped out with the old man beside him. He then asked, Senior, did you intentionally come to the Dark North Immortal Mountain to cultivate? Did you rush here from the other regions? Emichim, I came from the eastern regions. Qin Wentian nodded. Given how far the distance is, didn't Senior spend a very long time? The old man continued probing. Qin Wentian calmly replied, occasionally asking some questions. Very soon, he found out that Skyflame City could be considered a mid-tier city in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Immortal King ranked powers were as rare as the feathers of birds. An Immortal King would be able to summon the wind and rain in this city. The Wan clan that this old man was from was precisely an Immortal King ranked clan, one of the strongest clans in Skyflame City. Also, the person who fought against them earlier was someone from another Immortal King ranked power. These two powers were rivals. After finding out about this, Qin Wentian relaxed his guard. In this city, there shouldn't be anyone who could threaten his life. At the same time, Qin Wentian also found out that the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom governed the world. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was a sacred cultivation ground directly governed by the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. It was extremely suitable for those who had just broken through to the Immortal King realm. However, not everyone could casually enter and cultivate there. One had to obtain the permission of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. When the Immortal Mountain opened up, the geniuses of the various powers in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom would all head to the royal capital for a pilgrimage. Chapter 1329. Where did you say that senior is? A young man inclined his head and stared at the old man beside Qin Wentian. His eyes gleamed with sharpness, as though they contained blazing flames within. He was clad in long robes and exuded an imposing aura. Evidently, his status was extraordinary and his cultivation base was at the peak of Immortal Foundation. He doesn't seem to be someone from your Wan clan. What has this got to do with you, Wan Miaoyan? The young man from the Yen clan didn't want to lose face in front of his lover. He coldly replied. Maybe it's because he misunderstood you as an Immortal King earlier. In addition, it's not safe for you to leave now. The Yen clan and my Wan clan have a feud. Although Yen Ling is mediocre, there are a few powerful characters in the Yen clan who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Miaoyan and Yiming. If you leave now, the Yen clan might take revenge on you. The eyes of the old man flashed. He stared at Qin Wentian. Senior, you aren't an Immortal King? Old sir, I'm indeed cultivating there. How can I lie to you? You refer to me as senior. I'm at the 9th level of Immortal Foundation and you are at the 7th level. As for the people from the Yen clan, their cultivation bases are inferior to mine, yet they dared to look at me coldly. Don't tell me I shouldn't reprimand them. As for heading to the Dark North Immortal Mountain, I naturally wish to do so since I'm at the peak of Immortal Foundation. What's wrong with that? Qin Wendian retorted, causing the old man to be speechless. Although it was only a step away, 9th-level Immortal Foundation experts could be seen everywhere in Skyflame City. Immortal kings were considered peak characters. Regardless of the Wan clan or the Yen clan, there were many 9th-level Immortal Foundation guards. The old man was stunned, he had no way to rebut. There was nothing wrong with Qin Wendian's words. Was everything really just a misunderstanding? Stepping forward, Qin Wendian stood on the city walls and stared down. There were actually many demonic beasts there, all raised by the Wan clan. Some of these demonic beasts were extremely tyrannical and powerful. Farewell then. Yan Ling coldly glanced at Qin Wendian before leading his men away. Qin Wendian glanced at the young woman. She had a sexy figure and was beautiful with a hint of pride on her face. Her cultivation base was at the 7th level of Immortal Foundation, the same as the old man. Although her seniority was lower, her cultivation base wasn't low. Clearly, her talent wasn't bad. Just as they were talking, an aura suddenly rushed over from afar. Everyone turned around and the old man's expression changed slightly. It was someone from the Yen clan. They actually dared to come here. Take care of each other. Qin Wendian shrugged and said, it doesn't seem to be very popular. As one of the strongest powers in Skyflame City, the Wan clan was extremely imposing. Qin Wendian entered together with the old man. Before they arrived, the old man had already sent someone to inform the Wan clan. Hence, when Qin Wendian arrived, many people personally came to welcome him. The group of people in the lead all had extraordinary auras. When they saw Qin Wendian, all of them had curious gazes. The people of the Wan clan all had strange looks in their eyes. A beautiful woman with cold arrogance coldly spoke, "Third uncle, have you become muddle-headed? Maybe this man is intentionally lying to you, wanting to join our Wan clan." The Wan clan of Skyflame City was one of the strongest powers in this city. They had an immortal king as their protector, and to ordinary cities, an immortal king was already considered very powerful. Naturally, it was a different story for the capital cities of immortal empires and dynasties. Those places were rich in resources and were naturally the gathering place for experts. I heard that you also wish to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. A cold voice rang out. Qin Wendian turned his gaze over only to see Wan Yao's beautiful eyes staring at him. There was a hint of pride in her eyes. When he thought of this, he bitterly smiled, since Brother Qin is already here, why don't you come to the Wan clan as a guest? Old sir, Junior will bid my farewell. Qin Wendian clasped his hands. On the way here, he managed to gather some information. It didn't matter if he went to the Wan clan or not. Before this, he didn't dare to take the risk after being berated by Qin Wendian. But he was unwilling to be humiliated like this. Hence, he came to the vicinity of the Wan clan in advance and ordered his men to monitor the situation. And as expected, when he discovered that Qin Wendian wasn't an immortal king, he immediately brought his men over. These people were none other than the experts of the Yen clan who fought against the old man earlier. The young man in the lead coldly stared at Qin Wendian, "Little bastard, you actually dared to lie to me. Stop flattering yourself." Another woman smiled. "Third uncle, how do you plan to settle him?" Wan Miaoyan calmly glanced at him before turning and departing, ignoring him. She told Yan Ling to scram simply because Yan Ling wanted to kidnap Qin Wendian. It wasn't because of Qin Wendian himself. "Lie to you?" Qin Wendian smiled and shook his head. "When have I ever said that I'm an immortal king?" The young man from the Yen clan glanced at the woman who spoke. She was clad in a windbreaker and had a face as cold as frost, exuding an extraordinary aura. The old man was more honest. He was ranked third in the Wan clan, and right now, the Wan clan was managed by his two elder brothers. "Many thanks." Qin Wendian smiled and nodded to Wan Miaoyan. "Since I invited you here, I naturally have to be polite. How can I let you leave?" The old man shook his head, pulling Qin Wendian along. "Don't worry about it, come to my residence as a guest for a few days. After entering the Wan clan, Qin Wentian naturally gathered more information about the Dark North Immortal Mountain. It was said that not long later, the Wan clan would send people to escort Wan Miaoyan and Wan Yiming to the Dark North Immortal Kingdom. After Qin Wentian learned of this, he felt at ease and decided to stay in the Wan clan. Who are those people who spoke earlier? They seem to have high statuses in the Wan clan. Qin Wentian asked. Qin Wentian initially wanted to teach that young man a lesson, but who would have thought that before he could do anything, that young man had already fled with his tail between his legs. His gaze turned to Wan Miaoyan. This young woman had a peak-level Immortal Foundation cultivation base and was one of the two strongest here. The other was the young man who spoke first when he arrived. Hand this bastard to me and I will leave immediately. The young man pointed to Qin Wentian. Upon seeing this man calling him a bastard, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Just when he was about to step out, a clear voice rang out, "You want to ask for people from my Wan clan? Are you qualified?" "I haven't thought it through yet." The old man smiled. "Yao, do you have any suggestions?" "Just nice, isn't Miaoyan lacking a guard to feed the demonic beast?" "She can be a substitute." A young man at the side laughed. After that, expressions of interest appeared on the faces of everyone. Before this, Wan Miaoyan's guard died under the hands of a demonic beast. If Qin Wentian went to feed the demonic beast, only death would await him. "Brother Qin, I won't refer to you as senior. You can just call me by my name, Wan Zhuqing." The old man spoke to Qin Wentian. "Let's enter." After that, he clasped his hands to everyone, "I'm sorry. I've misunderstood." Qin Wentian smiled and nodded lightly. "This man is an immortal king expert. How can he be so young?" These people silently mused. Qin Wentian was speechless when he saw this scene. The old man beside him was truly acting on his own. He followed him to the Wan clan because he wanted to gather some information and was preparing to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. However, the old man caused such a huge commotion, it was hard for him to explain things clearly. This step was like ascending to the heavens. "Nope." Wan Yao coldly spoke. She glanced at Qin Wentian before turning to leave as well. The other experts also left one after another, thinking that there was really an immortal king here. However, it was just a 9th-level Immortal Foundation character, there was no need for them to pay any attention to him. Wan Miaoyan. The young man from the Yan clan had an unsightly expression on his face. This young woman who spoke was one of the most outstanding geniuses in the Wan clan, possessing both beauty and talent. In Skyflame City, it was unknown how many people coveted her beauty, fantasizing about marrying her. The young man from the Yan clan also had such fantasies before. However, he knew that it wasn't realistic. Immortal King. Qin Wentian pretended not to know that the old man had misunderstood. After that, the expression of the old man changed. "Sir, have you been lying to me before this?" Qin Wentian followed the serving girl who came to summon him. They came to a bastion of beasts and there were many young experts of the Wan clan here. They stood together and stared at the vast land below. Qin Wentian walked behind them but none of them turned around, as though they had completely ignored his existence. People from the Yan clan actually dare to behave atrociously in the territory of my Wan clan? The old man coldly spoke. There were now 2 other old men beside the young man. Their eyes gleamed brightly and their cultivation bases were extremely high. Both of them were at the 9th level of Immortal Foundation. "Since old sir is so kind, I, Qin, shall accept." Qin Wentian smiled and nodded, following Wan Zhuqing into the Wan clan. "Could it be that old sir is so respectful to me because you misunderstood that I'm an immortal king?" Qin Wentian smiled and shook his head, as though he didn't know anything at all. He clasped his hands. "If this matter caused a misunderstanding and old sir doesn't welcome me, I, Qin, will take my leave." "This one is." The old man pointed to Qin Wentian. The expression of the old man stiffened. "I asked you if you are cultivating there and you nodded your head. I addressed you as senior and you refused to back down. Also, you directly told the people from the Yen clan to scram and you came here wanting to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Are all these not counted? The person who asked me at the start was Wan Yiming, the son of my eldest brother. As for the woman who told Yen Yen to leave earlier, it was Wan Miaoyan, the daughter of my second brother. The two of them are the two with the best talent in our Wan clan, and the Wan clan has high hopes for them, hoping that they would be able to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain to cultivate. Although I have some misunderstandings with you, I can see that Brother Qin's aura is extraordinary, and since he wants to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain, I believe that he wouldn't be an ordinary character as well. Hence, I asked Brother Qin to stay behind. What are you all doing? I only came to the Wan clan to take a walk. Why is there a need to make such a scene? Qin Wendian stared at the old man. Is there some misunderstanding? Yen Ling, you are truly shameless. Given your status, do you have the qualifications to question Sister Miaoyan? Scram. The woman who addressed the old man as third uncle earlier spoke, causing Yen Ling's expression to turn even more unsightly. Chapter 1330. Scarlet Wing's physique was gigantic, occupying an entire demonic palace. He stood there and inclined his head, staring at the young man in the air. Within his eyes, terrifying flames could be seen gushing forth. Qin Wentian's expression turned cold. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the divine weapon. His eyes also turned sharp as he stared at Scarlet Wing. The experts on the city walls all froze when they saw this scene. All of them had looks of disbelief on their faces. What was going on? Did Scarlet Wing go crazy today? He actually knelt before this fellow. The demonic beasts below inclined their heads as a baleful aura gushed forth, wanting to tear Qin Wendian apart. As demon immortals, they all had their own thoughts. But when they transformed into humans, there wasn't much difference between them and humans. They were forcibly captured and brought here as mounts. One could very well imagine how these demon immortals felt in their hearts. They wanted nothing more than to slaughter their way out and tear these humans apart. Naturally, there were many rebellions that occurred here. However, all of them were suppressed by iron and blood, using extremely cruel methods. What's going on? Wan Zhuqing also rushed over. When he learned that Wan Yao invited Qin Wendian here, he felt that something was amiss and immediately rushed over. After that, when he saw the scene before him, his heart shuddered with trepidation. With a flash, Qin Wendian soared forward, heading straight for the gigantic scarlet-winged demonic beast. Sister Miaoyan, we only told this man to serve Scarlet Wing. I wonder what methods he used to make Scarlet Wing act like this. Wan Yao seemed somewhat nervous. When Wan Miaoyan's gaze swept over, the demonic beasts all lowered their heads. Qin Wendian felt a little bewildered when he saw this scene. Seems like Wan Miaoyan's prestige in the Wan clan wasn't ordinary. The words of the young man were filled with mockery. Telling Qin Wendian to feed a demonic beast was an extremely despicable thing to do. However, when this man came to the Wan clan, he made everyone go out to welcome him. This caused many people to feel extremely unhappy. After speaking, he left together with Qin Wendian. On the way, Wan Zhuqing bitterly smiled at Qin Wendian as he shook his head. Luckily Miaoyan didn't hold this against you. You almost got harmed by Yi Yao. In the future, if she invites you again, just ignore it. Just wait until it's time to move out and we can head to the royal capital together. Although third uncle allowed you to come along, if you don't prove your strength, there's no need for our Wan clan to bring you along. Wan Yao's voice was cold as she stared ahead. When they saw Qin Wendian floating forward, the people on the city wall all revealed gloating expressions. Controlling red wings. Courting death. After speaking, she flew away. Crimson Wing roared and tossed Qin Wendian off. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed, only to see Crimson Wing leaving together with Wan Miaoyan. Before this woman, Crimson Wing was like a tamed sheep. Kneel. Qin Wendian coldly transmitted his voice, his words ringing out in Crimson Wing's mind. A look of terror flashed in Crimson Wing's eyes as his body involuntarily trembled. With a loud thud, his gigantic body directly prostrated on the ground. Terror filled his heart. How could this be? He actually felt an intense fear and a desire to submit. Third uncle, you invited this man to the Wan clan, but this man doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. I wonder what methods he used to make Crimson Wing behave like this. Why are you still not kneeling and apologizing? Wan Yao icily spoke, pushing all the blame onto Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian laughed silently. Most probably, the Wan clan thought that he had a favor to ask of them. He had too many methods to head there himself. Initially, he wanted to leave, but Wan Zhuqing urged him to stay. But since they wanted to see him taming demonic beasts, he might as well let them watch. These people, including Wan Yao, were all afraid of her. An instant later, Wan Miaoyan turned and left, leaving behind a cold voice. This time around, I will give face to third uncle. But if there's a next time, don't blame me for being impolite. You are the one messing around, right? Wan Zhuqing was somewhat unhappy. He stared at Wan Miaoyan and spoke, Miaoyan, right now, Brother Qin shouldn't know that I'm the one who invited him to the Wan clan. I'm planning to let him follow you and Yiming so that you can take care of each other. Crimson Wing snorted. He stood up, as though he also felt an innate fear towards Wan Miaoyan. These two were people he couldn't afford to offend. I told you to kneel. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice again. His eyes gleamed with a blood-colored light, resembling a true demon king. A blood-colored bolt of lightning directly shot into Crimson Wing's eyes. Crimson Wing actually knelt to the ground and lowered his head. His entire body trembled uncontrollably, appearing extremely terrified. Wan Miaoyan remained silent, her expression was as cold as ever. She glanced at Qin Wentian again before calling out to her mount, Crimson Wing. Brother Qin is a guest, how can you speak in such a manner? Wan Yao coldly spoke, causing the laughter of everyone to stop. Wan Yao turned her gaze to Qin Wentian, pointing to a demonic beast far away. Over there was a greater demon whose entire body was bathed in flames. This was a variation-type demon immortal that had the body of a tiger or leopard and the wings of a bird. Its entire body was fiery red and its eyes were extremely terrifying, as though they could shoot out flames. When everyone heard Wan Yao's words, expressions of interest appeared on their faces. They knew that Wan Yao intentionally wanted to probe Qin Wentian's strength. Before this, he came here in such a domineering manner, the entire Skyflame clan came out to welcome him. Now, she even wanted to bring him to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. However, because of Wan Zhuqing, everyone didn't dare to say anything. But if Qin Wentian's strength wasn't enough and he died in the hands of a demonic beast, he couldn't blame them. That's Sister Miaoyan's demonic beast mount, Crimson Wing. If you want to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain, you have to prove your strength first. If you can control this demonic beast, you can come with us. Wan Yao pointed to the demonic beast as she spoke. Scram, don't make me act personally. A voice filled with killing intent rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. It was actually a voice transmission. Qin Wentian stared at the Crimson Wing. This fellow could be considered the one with the best treatment. This figure had an extraordinary bearing and was extremely handsome. His face was filled with coldness, and when he glanced at his mount, Crimson Wing, his expression turned even colder. In addition, the demonic beast he fed was Wan Miaoyan's demonic beast mount. It wouldn't be a humiliation to him. Many people were waiting for such an opportunity to get closer to Wan Miaoyan. After that, the people of the Wan clan could only do their best to serve her. How would they dare to make the Crimson Wing kneel and stand on its back? Although she and Yiming are the two great geniuses of our Wan clan, in truth, the old patriarch favors Miaoyan more. Her talent is much higher compared to Yiming. As for how strong she is now, I'm not too sure. Wan Zhuqing shook his head. Qin Wentian didn't say anything more. Is Wan Miaoyan really so powerful? Qin Wentian casually smiled. It was like Wan Zhuqing was certain that if Wan Miaoyan was to be calculative, he would definitely be in a miserable state. Who? Wan Zhuqing heaved a sigh of relief. Clearly, he was worried that Wan Miaoyan would really act against Qin Wentian. If that's the case, he would truly be letting down Qin Wentian. Everyone was still as silent as cicadas in winter. Even Wan Zhuqing, the third uncle of the Wan clan, couldn't compare to Wan Miaoyan. Wan Miaoyan was someone the old patriarch regarded highly and might be another immortal king of the Wan clan. From this, one could very well imagine her status. What? You don't even dare to ride on a demonic beast? You still want to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain? Someone crossed his arms in front of his chest as he mocked. Back then, there was a direct descendant of the Wan clan who approached Crimson Wing, causing Crimson Wing to be enraged. That descendant brought some people over to beat Crimson Wing up. When Wan Miaoyan learned of this, she returned a tooth for a tooth, beating up those who acted against Crimson Wing. All of them were heavily injured, causing the people of the Wan clan to shudder. Nobody dared to help those who were beaten up. Wan Miaoyan said that only she could control her mount. Only you are qualified to stand on the mount of Sister Miaoyan. Wan Yiyao coldly spoke. The expressions of the people in the surroundings all turned extremely unsightly, as though they were filled with fear. At this moment, a figure flashed over from afar. Many experts followed behind her, exuding an imposing aura. Qin Wentian descended and directly stood on Crimson Wing's back. He turned his head and stared at Wan Yiyao and the others. Is this the case? Qin Wentian could sense the baleful aura from these demonic beasts. He treated Little Rascal and Purgatory as his kin and companions, but there were many experts in the immortal realms who were different from him. They treated these demonic beasts purely as mounts and wouldn't care about emotions. In addition, many of these demonic beasts were controlled by special methods and had no way to escape. You. Wan Yiyao's eyes turned cold. Wan Zhuqing stared at her. Yiyao, stop messing around. Weren't you guys the ones who wanted me to control these demonic beasts? Qin Wentian frowned. After that, he saw those experts moving forward. A fiery red whip appeared in Wan Yiyao's hands, exuding a fearsome aura. She then swung it towards Qin Wentian, aiming for Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian landed on the ground. The look in Crimson Wing's eyes grew even more baleful. In an instant, a fearsome aura enveloped Qin Wentian. In just an instant, Qin Wentian was enveloped by a terrifying heat. This Crimson Wing was a peak-stage demon immortal. Qin Wentian coldly glanced at her. After that, he released the whip and spoke to Wan Zhuqing. Old sir, let's go. The lips of everyone curled up in an expression of interest. This was the demonic beast mount of Wan Miaoyan. In order to serve this demonic beast, many experts have already died. Even 9th-level Immortal Foundation guards died in the hands of Crimson Wing. Yet, they wanted Qin Wentian to control Crimson Wing. Yiyao was truly intelligent. Why are you still not scramming down? Wan Yiyao coldly spoke to Qin Wentian. Only she alone could sit on Wan Miaoyan's mount. Everyone had to do their best to serve her. This was why Crimson Wing dared to kill so many experts. And now, Qin Wentian wanted Crimson Wing to kneel and stand on its back. What methods did you use exactly? Wan Yiyao stared at Qin Wentian, her voice was as cold as ever. Beast taming. Qin Wentian shook his head. Impudent. Wan Yiyao's countenance changed slightly and her expression suddenly became extremely cold. She scolded. The other experts also revealed a cold expression and said, "Get down here." A demonic light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. In just an instant, his demonic eyes resembled that of a descendant of a demon god, unexcelled in the world. With a single glance, he directly penetrated Crimson Wing's eyes, bringing with him a terrifying might that could cause all demons to prostrate before him. Chapter 1331. For the next period of time, Qin Wentian quietly cultivated in the residence Wan Zhuqing arranged for him. To him, the matters of the Wan clan weren't even worth a mention. He could leave whenever he wanted to. It was only because Wan Zhuqing repeatedly urged him to stay that he chose to stay. One night, while cultivating, Qin Wentian suddenly heard the sound of a zither. This zither music was pleasing to the ear and contained an artistic conception. Qin Wentian, who was sitting cross-legged, gradually dispersed his aura. He slowly opened his eyes, and there was a hint of laziness in his eyes. It was as though he wanted to let go of all his obsessions and live a carefree life with his beloved. This zither music is interesting. Qin Wentian suddenly laughed. He didn't know what kind of person would be able to create such a state of mind. Beauty in the heart, as though it had seen through the mortal world, yet it also seemed as though it had no attachment to power or cultivation. He stood up, and with a flash of his silhouette, he walked out. An instant later, he arrived at the rooftop of a courtyard. He looked down and saw a woman in the courtyard with a veil covering her face. She was quietly playing the zither, and the sound of the zither was melodious. It was as though she had forgotten everything in the mortal world. So young. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered. It was very hard to imagine that such a melody was played by an extremely young maiden. Although her face was covered by a veil, one could still see how beautiful her countenance was. Her white robes fluttered in the wind, resembling a goddess under the moonlight, as though she was an immortal. Only with a pure state of mind could one play the zither music. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. He lay on the roof and listened quietly, not making a single sound. Even when the ethereal zither music gradually dissipated, he was still lying there lazily, as though he was enjoying it very much. Is it impolite to peep at her like this? A gentle and elegant voice drifted over. Qin Wentian slowly opened his eyes as he sat up. He stared at the maiden and smiled. I was influenced by the zither music and couldn't control my emotions. I apologize for my rudeness, please forgive me. Since you know it's impolite, why didn't you leave? The woman asked softly. Your zither music is out of this world. You seem to yearn for this path and you don't like to cultivate. Why is your cultivation so high? Qin Wentian smiled and said, the people in the residence say that Wan Miaoyan and Wan Yiming are the two great geniuses of the Wan clan. However, I can see that Mrs. Cultivation is on par with them and the attainments you've shown in your zither music are also very deep. Your talent shouldn't be any worse than theirs. I'm a little curious. The beautiful eyes of the woman flashed with a strange light. Inclining her head, her pure and flawless eyes stared at Qin Wentian who was on the roof as she replied, I don't like to cultivate, there's no meaning in such a comparison. It's just that the majority of the people in the manor hate my zither music. Since you can see through my cultivation base with a single glance, your cultivation base shouldn't be weak. Why would you be attracted by my music? Because I don't like cultivation either. Qin Wentian smiled, cultivation has always been a very boring thing. If you can immerse yourself in something you like to do, to play the zither, to write a book, to travel the world with the person you love, that is the true beauty of the world. The woman glanced at Qin Wentian in astonishment and smiled, how can it be so beautiful? Therefore, I have no choice but to cultivate. Even though cultivation is a boring thing, it is what I pursue. My obsession is strong because there are many beautiful things in the world that can only be realized through cultivation. Qin Wentian shrugged. The woman stared at him. Did this person understand what she was trying to express in her music? In that case, you still like to cultivate. The woman smiled and stared at Qin Wentian, my name is Jean. You live up to your name. My name is Qin Wentian. Smiling, Qin Wentian bid his farewell, I apologize for disturbing you. Goodbye. After that, his silhouette flickered as he left this place. During this period of time in the Wan clan, Qin Wentian would often listen to the music of the zither. He enjoyed it quite a bit. One day, Wan Zhuqing came and asked Qin Wentian, are you used to this place? It's alright, it's just that I'm often disturbed by the music. Qin Wentian smiled as he stared at Wan Zhuqing. His words caused Wan Zhuqing's expression to change, you don't like the music of the zither as well? Qin Wentian smiled at Wan Zhuqing, causing Wan Zhuqing to smile bitterly and shake his head. This music is quite interesting. You arranged for me to be here because you want me to get in touch with a soulmate, right? Qin Wentian said with a smile. How could he not know what Wan Zhuqing was thinking? Wan Zhuqing started. After that, he smiled, Brother Qin, to tell you the truth, Jin is my daughter. This time around, I kept trying to persuade you to stay in the Wan clan because I have my own selfish motives. You should know that my cultivation base is weak. Although I'm an elder, even Yao wouldn't respect me. Jin's talent is extremely high but she doesn't like to cultivate. She's obsessed with the 4 arts and rarely appears outside. In fact, many people don't even know of her existence. There are even some people in the same generation who have a conflict with her. Old Sir wants me to go together with the Wan clan because Jin would be heading there as well. Qin Wendian smiled, instantly understanding Wan Zhuqing's intentions. Yes, the Dark North Immortal Mountain is an opportunity for Jin. I've already persuaded her to go but I'm worried that she might suffer some losses on the way there. It would be difficult for her to rely on the younger generations of the Wan clan to take care of her. Hence, I wish to travel together with Brother Qin so that we can take care of each other. Naturally, if Brother Qin doesn't like it, just pretend that I didn't say anything. If Brother Qin blames me for being selfish and wants to leave, I will send you off. Wan Zhuqing sincerely spoke. Qin Wendian silently mused. Just like what he said to Jin back then, the beauty of the world can only be realized through the path of cultivation. Wan Zhuqing loved his daughter but he also knew that his strength was weak. Even as an elder, his status wasn't high and he had to ask an outsider like him to take care of his daughter. Most probably, he felt helpless. Okay. Qin Wendian smiled and nodded. Wan Zhuqing didn't expect Qin Wendian to agree so straightforwardly. A look of joy appeared on his face as he spoke, I thank Brother Qin. I will go with you on this trip as well. Getting rid of Brother Qin is also a way for us to take care of each other. If we really encounter any unfathomable dangers, Brother Qin can just leave on your own. Qin Wendian nodded lightly and didn't say anything. Wan Zhuqing clasped his hands, Brother Qin, rest well. The day of departure is nearing. At that time, I will come back to invite Brother Qin to go with me. Qin Wendian nodded. Wan Zhuqing then left. Staring at his departing back, Qin Wendian smiled. Everyone has their own selfish motives. He naturally wouldn't mind Wan Zhuqing's little thoughts. It was fine as long as Wan Zhuqing was honest. In any case, Fairy Yuxia was also an interesting character. Several days later, outside the Wan clan's manor, many experts gathered. These were all elites of the Wan clan and they were all preparing to escort the young masters and young mistresses of the Wan clan to the royal capital of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. The journey was extremely long and they would need to rely on teleportation arrays. Initially, the young masters and young mistresses could head there alone but because their destination was the incomparably powerful royal capital, the old master of the Wan clan was worried and sent people to escort them. In the crowd, Crimson Wing's physique was incomparably gigantic. Wan Miaoyan stood on top of Crimson Wing, exuding an unexcelled aura. Wan Yiming stood on a powerful flame dragon formed from astral energy, exuding an incomparably imposing aura. The two of them were in the center of the crowd and there were many peak-stage Immortal Foundation elders of the Wan clan as guards. There was also the second brother of the Wan clan personally guarding them. He glanced at his beloved daughter Wan Miaoyan as a smile appeared on his face. The Dark North Immortal Mountain, he hoped that Miaoyan would have a chance to break through to the Immortal King realm. At the borders, there was a sedan pulled by demonic beasts. The sedan was extremely large and the interior was as comfortable as a room. A veiled maiden quietly sat within, Wan Zhuqing and Qin Wendian were there as well. Move out. At this moment, Wan Miaoyan's father, Wan Qingyun, gave the order. A moment later, a group of experts soared into the air, flying towards the royal capital. Inside the sedan, Qin Wendian smiled at the maiden before him, Miss Jin, why do you like to wear a veil? I'm used to it. Jin spoke in a light voice. With a wave of her hand, she took out a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone and actually started to paint in the sedan. Just like what Wan Zhuqing said, she liked the 4 arts. Lifting her brush, she casually drew as a portrait of a person appeared. Qin Wendian stared at the outline as he started. So it turned out that the person in the portrait was actually him. When the portrait was completed, a handsome young man with a gentle and refined demeanor appeared. This young man looked exactly the same as him, extremely miraculous. Miss Sheen is not only skilled in the zither, your painting skills are shocking as well. Qin Wendian sighed. The him in the portrait seemed to be alive, exuding a divine charm. In fact, there was even a faint smile on his face, as though he wanted to walk out from the portrait. Sir Qin, please excuse me. Jean spoke in a light voice. Actually, cultivation is extremely wondrous. The myriad Daos of the myriad of Daos are all interconnected. Miss Sheen doesn't like to cultivate, yet her talent is extremely high. Some might not understand, but to me, it's only natural. Her heart is pure and flawless, and she has high attainments in both the zither and painting. If Miss Sheen were to cultivate in divine inscriptions, her talent would definitely be extremely high as well. Qin Wendian smiled. Wan Zhuqing's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Qin Wendian's words seemed simple, yet they were all connected to the logic of cultivation, causing him to feel enlightened. In addition, he recalled an incident that happened many years ago, causing him to be filled with admiration for Qin Wendian. Although Jean had never cultivated in divine inscriptions before, she managed to easily inscribe an extremely powerful divine inscription. I don't dare to accept Sir Qin's words. Jean shook her head lightly. The journey here is boring. I wonder if I can enjoy the beautiful melody of the zither. Qin Wendian asked. Jean's eyes flickered. After that, she nodded her head lightly. She took out her zither and started to play. Qin Wendian closed his eyes and quietly admired the melody. His state of heart became calm and tranquil, as though he wanted to cast aside everything. He didn't reject such thoughts. Humans would naturally have too many distracting thoughts. In addition, the reason why he wanted to listen to Jean's zither music was because he could faintly sense a strange feeling from it, yet he couldn't grasp it. Enough. But very swiftly, a voice of reproach rang out, interrupting the melody. Qin Wendian opened his eyes as he furrowed his brows. Jean smiled, keeping her zither as she stared at Qin Wendian with an apologetic look on her face. Thinking too highly of yourself. A mocking voice rang out. The person who spoke was none other than Wan Yao. Since you don't like to cultivate, why is there a need to head to the royal capital of the dynasty? The mocking voices weren't masked at all. Wan Zhuqing's expression changed, but Jean didn't seem to mind at all, as though she was long used to it. Qin Wendian felt somewhat puzzled. Although Wan Zhuqing's cultivation base was low, Jean's talent was extraordinary. Why were these people so unhappy with her? Most probably, there must be a reason behind this. The journey was very long. Qin Wendian would occasionally close his eyes to cultivate, and he would also seal himself to listen to Jean's zither music. It was truly interesting along the way. They even passed through several teleportation arrays and finally, sighs of admiration drifted over from the outside world. We've arrived at the royal capital. After entering the royal capital, make sure to keep a low profile and don't offend anyone. Wan Qingshan commanded. In the royal capital, there was no one they couldn't afford to offend. Qin Wendian opened his eyes and smiled. We've arrived already. Traveling together with the Wan clan truly saved him a lot of trouble. This was also one of the reasons why he chose to stay in the Wan clan. Chapter 1332. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom was a peak power of the northern regions. Qin Wendian had no way to know how strong it was exactly, but he was sure that it wouldn't be weaker compared to the Evergreen Kingdom that had just experienced a civil war. For such an immortal dynasty, how many experts would there be in the royal capital? No wonder Wan Qingshan gave the order not to offend anyone. The Skyflame city they were in was merely an insignificant little city to the royal capital. An immortal king clan might be able to reign supreme in Skyflame City, but over here, any immortal king would be able to easily destroy them. The people of the Wan clan all had looks of curiosity and excitement on their faces, surveying this majestic royal capital. Each and every street was like a winding dragon, majestic and majestic. The people here were all at the Immortal Foundation realm, and there were many immortal kings here. There were even immortal kings passing by them. Only in the sedan, Jean was still focused on her painting. There were no distractions in her heart, as though she didn't have much interest in this majestic royal capital. Uncle Wan, there's something I don't understand. Qin Wendian spoke to Wan Zhuqing. During the journey here, the two of them were already very familiar with each other. Qin Wendian also became much closer to him, directly referring to him as Uncle Wan. I know what you are puzzled about. There's no need to hide this. You should know the temperament of this last Jean, she stands aloof from worldly affairs. In Skyflame City, there are a few major powers as strong as the Wan clan, and there would often be conflicts between the younger generations. However, when the Wan clan hoped that Jean would fight for the Wan clan, this lass actually didn't act at all. You should understand now, right? Wan Zhuqing bitterly smiled as he shook his head. Qin Wendian was astonished. After that, he laughed speechlessly. He didn't think that this matter was so funny. These clans all cared about face, and there would always be competitions. Jean clearly had talent, but she didn't participate, never fighting for the sake of her clan. She would naturally be ostracized. Jean, you are truly special. Qin Wendian smiled at the young woman before him. Jean put down the brush and paper in her hands. Over the past few days, she had drawn many portraits of Qin Wendian and Wan Zhuqing. Each of them had a different charm. Even Qin Wendian himself didn't know that he could have so many different poses. Is it special? Why aren't you guys special? Jean raised her head and looked at Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian blinked, he was actually speechless. Yes, we are special. Qin Wendian nodded. Jean smiled, after which she rolled up the scrolls and kept them. Why do you need so many paintings? Qin Wendian asked. Look. Jean said. Watch? Qin Wendian was confused. Of course I will. Don't you think that you are quite handsome? Jean looked at Qin Wendian seriously. Qin Wendian started. Wan Zhuqing, who was at the side, couldn't help but laugh uproariously. This lass was able to kill Qin Wendian with just a few words. Uncle Wan, I discovered that not only is Jean's talent good, she also has a good point. Qin Wendian glanced at Wan Zhuqing. What good point? Wan Zhuqing was somewhat interested. You have good eyesight. Qin Wendian spoke with a straight face. Wan Zhuqing and Jean exchanged glances before both of them started laughing. Jean's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wendian as she smiled. Although you are quite handsome, your skin is also quite thick. Qin Wendian touched his own face and seriously replied, it's still okay. Wendian, Jean, you guys are quite compatible. Wan Zhuqing was in a good mood and also started joking. However, his joke seemed to have gone overboard. Qin Wendian and Jean were completely stunned. After that, an awkward silence. Cough cough, I was just casually speaking. Wan Zhuqing tried to smooth things over when he saw their awkward expressions. He was indeed just casually speaking. I have never traveled far before, I have no idea what the royal capital is like. Jean was intelligent and intentionally changed the topic. She lifted the curtains and stared at the royal capital outside. Since the Dark North Immortal Mountain is opening, wouldn't countless experts from the entire Hokage Sengoku Kingdom be rushing there? Qin Wendian also understood Jean's awkwardness. He asked Wan Zhuqing. The Dark North Immortal Mountain only opens once every 10 years, and there would indeed be countless experts coming. However, it wouldn't be too exaggerated. After all, the Dark North Immortal Mountain is just there, and it only opens once every 10 years. To those who are already at the Immortal King realm or those who are already at the Immortal King realm, it's a very short period of time. Many people would only come when they are more confident. After all, it isn't an easy matter to traverse territories. That's right, even if you miss it, it would only be 10 years. However, there should be many people at the same cultivation realm in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Even if only a portion of them came, it would surely be a terrifying number. Right now, this royal capital would definitely be filled with people from all over the world. Qin Wentian nodded. That's only natural. Wan Zhuqing nodded. Seems like this is going to be a grand occasion for the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Qin Wentian laughed. I heard in Skyflame City that Princess Nongyue's cultivation base is already extremely high and she has already broken through to the Immortal King realm, comprehending Immortal King might. This means that she can also enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain to gain insights. In that case, the grand occasion for the Immortal Foundation expert Wu Xiu might be hosted by Princess Nongyue. At that time, Wentian, you would be able to meet an extremely famous princess of our Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. It's rumored that she's a great beauty. Wan Zhuqing laughed. Baiming Nongyue. A figure appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. With regards to this princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, he did have a good impression of her because of Li Yufeng. That couple was also a very interesting couple. She's indeed a beauty, but she already has someone in her heart. Qin Wentian spoke. Wan Zhuqing stared at Qin Wentian as he furrowed his brows. He then smiled. Wentian, you speak as though you have met Princess Nongyue before. As for the person in her heart, I've never heard of him before. Why don't you tell me about him? The saint child of the 100 Refinements sect, Li Yufeng. Qin Wentian laughed. You have actually heard of the name of the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect before? Seems like I'm truly ignorant. Wan Zhuqing naturally knew of the 100 Refinements sect. They were also a peak power of the northern regions and were neighbors to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. As for the saint child and Li Yufeng, he wasn't very clear about them. After all, this wasn't something related to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Qin Wentian saw Wan Zhuqing staring at him. He then asked, "What's wrong? You are truly good at joking. You speak as though you really know about it." Wan Zhuqing laughed. Qin Wentian blinked his eyes and laughed as well, but he didn't explain anything. After all, to Wan Zhuqing, regardless of Baiming Nongyue or the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect, they were all characters above the clouds. No matter how good Qin Wentian's talent was, he was merely a minor character in front of them. How would a minor character know about matters above the clouds? Are you joking? Shameless is the correct word. Outside, a mocking voice drifted over. These two are truly interesting. One thinks he's aloof and virtuous, while the other is even more laughable. He actually used Princess Nongyue and the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect to raise himself up. How shameless. Third uncle, you are right, the two of them are truly compatible. This voice belonged to Wan Yao. Clearly, she had been eavesdropping on the conversation inside. Wan Zhuqing's expression changed. Yao, don't speak nonsense. Third uncle, do you think I'm wrong? In that case, why don't you ask the others? Wan Yao coldly laughed. Many people outside started laughing as well. Princess Nongyue, saint child of the 100 Refinements sect, these are true dragons among humans. To think that there's actually someone here who doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Since I'm a scoundrel, I won't go so far as to eavesdrop on the conversation of others. Qin Wentian laughed. No matter how much I boast, what does it have to do with you guys? Since you are a guard of my Wan clan, you naturally have something to do with it. You actually still have the face to sit in the sedan. How shameless. Wan Yao spoke again. Yao, you are too much. Wentian is my guest, do you want to question my arrangements? Wan Zhuqing coldly spoke. At the same time, he patted Qin Wentian on his shoulder, indicating for him not to argue pointlessly and to endure it for now. Third uncle, since you are so protective of an outsider, what else can I say? Wan Yao coldly snorted. At this moment, outside the royal capital, another group of experts entered. This group of experts was extremely majestic and the people in the lead all exuded an extraordinary aura. This was especially so for a young man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His handsome face exuded a carefree aura as he entered the royal capital with a smile on his face. Yu Feng, this time around, you didn't come to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom just for the sake of the Dark North Immortal Mountain, right? I heard that this time around, Baiming Nongyue might be the host of the banquet. A young man at the side laughed as he stared at Li Yufeng. A smile appeared on Li Yufeng's handsome face. This time around, he naturally didn't come here just for the sake of entering the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Why don't you say something? Are you preparing to come to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom to propose marriage? The young man at the side laughed. If I came here just like that, would the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom agree to it? Li Yufeng laughed. That's hard to say. Maybe the emperor of the dynasty saw your talent and directly wanted to recruit you as his son-in-law, agreeing to this marriage. You really know how to think. Li Yufeng spoke. It's rumored that Baiming Nongyue's elder sister, Princess Kitamura, is a supreme beauty, famous throughout the northern regions. However, I've never seen her countenance before. Sadly, she's still in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Seems like I won't have a chance to see her. Yu Feng, you saw her before, how is she compared to Baiming Nongyue? The young man at the side laughed. If we are comparing beauty, Princess Kitamura is more outstanding. Li Yufeng replied, admitting that Princess Kitamura was indeed a supreme beauty. I really want to see her for myself. Ha! That person laughed. The group of people rode on their powerful treasures and soared through the air like bolts of lightning, directly flying past the heads of Qin Wentian's group. The people of the Wan clan inclined their heads and stared at those people in the air. They were thinking in their hearts that these people should be from major powers, right? Their treasures were all so powerful. Qin Wentian was in the sedan and didn't mind. After all, although his immortal sense was very strong, he wouldn't release it for no reason. Chapter 1333. Wan Miaoyan inclined her head and stared at the departing figures in the air. Although the auras of some of these people weren't strong and their cultivation bases might be on the same level as her, the aura they exuded was sufficient to make one feel what it means to be a supreme character. Miaoyan, you only lack an opportunity. This trip to the royal capital is your good fortune. Not only do you want to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain for cultivation, I hope that you would be able to gain some good fortune in the royal capital and enter the tutelage of an expert. The Wan clan is no longer suitable for you. At this moment, Wan Miaoyan's father, Wan Qingshan, spoke. I wish to take a look at the royal palace. Wan Miaoyan spoke in a light voice. Since we are already in the royal capital, we naturally have to take a look outside the royal palace. Wan Qingshan nodded, his eyes filled with reverence. They came from a small city in the dynasty and might only be able to come to the royal capital a few times in their lives. To them, the royal palace was a place of pilgrimage. Going to the royal palace to take a look. The people in the surroundings were all extremely agitated, as though they were on a pilgrimage. To think that I would be able to see the royal palace of my dynasty in my lifetime. Wan Zhuqing, who was in the sedan, also sighed, his state of heart fluctuating slightly. The two young men beside him were much calmer. Wentian, you are so young and might have great accomplishments in the future. Don't you yearn for it? Wan Zhuqing stared at Qin Wentian. I naturally yearn for it. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded. Before this, Wan Zhuqing didn't dare to believe him when he casually mentioned the matter between Baiming Nongyue and Li Yufeng. He naturally wouldn't say that he could freely enter and exit the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. They continued on their way, and after a long time, they finally arrived outside the royal palace. The three of them exited the sedan and stared at the majestic city in front of them. It was extremely majestic, with layers upon layers of palaces stretching up into the clouds. It was like a majestic city that descended from the heavens. A single glance at it would cause reverence to appear in the hearts of people, as though they wanted to prostrate themselves and kowtow to it. Jean also seriously stared ahead, as though she wanted to carve the image of this majestic city into her mind. You want to draw it again? Qin Wentian stared at the serious expression in Jean's eyes as he smiled. Jean nodded lightly. Such a scene, if she could stay in the painting, would definitely be extremely beautiful. One day, I will also step into such a majestic city. One of the two heavens chosen, Wan Yiming, had a sharp gaze as flames burned in his eyes. Wan Miaoyan silently stared ahead, her heart was also fluctuating. She clenched her fists as her beautiful eyes flashed with a strong conviction. Looking at the figures going in and out of the imperial palace, those were all high and mighty figures. One day, they would also become such people. Let's go. Wan Miaoyan calmly spoke. Wan Qingshan nodded. The group of them changed their direction, and after that, they inquired about the location of the Dark North Immortal Mountain before continuing on their way. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was located not far away from the royal capital. There was a stretch of mountain range here, and outside of this mountain range, there was an independent region that resembled a city within a city. This region was a place one had to pass through if they wanted to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain, and it was also a place where experts who wished to enter the Immortal Mountain had to stop. Therefore, it was naturally extremely prosperous. Especially when the 10-year period was about to arrive, there would be a sea of people, and the streets would be empty. Experts from all over the world would gather in all the inns and restaurants, and it was extremely lively. After the people of the Wan clan arrived, they found an inn to rest their feet. Each of the inns here was extremely large and had independent courtyards, as well as places to enjoy delicacies. At this moment, the people of the Wan clan were seated in a circle, enjoying immortal-tasting delicacies. Many of the delicacies that could be enjoyed by immortals were cooked using immortal herbs and spirit beasts. If not, how could immortals be able to satisfy their cravings for good food? With regards to ordinary food, immortals no longer needed it. They wouldn't be interested in it at all. The people of the Wan clan were all enjoying themselves. These delicacies were all extremely expensive, and they spent a lot of immortal stones on them. It was rare for them to come to the royal capital, and the people who came here were all elites of their respective clans. They naturally wanted to be a little extravagant. Let me offer a toast to everyone. Let us congratulate Miaoyan and Wan Yiming in advance for being able to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain and break through to the Immortal King realm, bringing glory to our clan. Wan Qingshan raised his cup to everyone as he spoke. Everyone raised their cups and drank with the exception of a small table at the side. Among Qin Wentian's group of 3, only Wan Zhuqing raised his cup. Qin Wentian and Jean acted as though they didn't hear it. This Wan Qingshan only congratulated Wan Miaoyan and Wan Yiming in advance. Wasn't he ignoring Jean as well? Sister Miaoyan and elder brother naturally have no problems. In the future, our Wan clan would have several immortal kings. At that time, I want to see how the Yen clan can still be so arrogant. Wan Yiyao smiled. The group of them were filled with confidence, as though they were consoling themselves. The people at the side glanced over, but most of them merely smiled. For those who came to the Dark North Immortal Mountain, who didn't want to break through to the Immortal King realm. All of them were filled with confidence, but how could it be so easy to step into the Immortal King realm? Everyone. At this moment, an old man with the air of a transcendent being clasped his hands. The people of the Wan clan turned their gazes to this old man only to hear Wan Qingshan speaking, "Old sir, what guidance do you have for us?" Just like what he said, in the royal capital, Wan Qingshan didn't dare to casually offend anyone. This old man pointed to a table at the side. Over there, a young man with an elegant demeanor was drinking alone, exuding an air of arrogance. Behind him, there was an expert quietly standing there, like a bodyguard. "This is the young master of my clan, a member of the Duanmu clan," that old man introduced. After that, Wan Qingshan's expression turned heavy. He clasped his hands to the young man. Wan Qingshan pays his respects to young master Duanmu. The young man nodded, as arrogant as ever. He didn't even glance at the Wan clan. Wan Qingshan's eyes flashed. After that, he slowly lowered his hand, feeling trepidation in his heart. Drinking alone is boring. Can I invite a young miss over to drink with me? That young man calmly spoke, placing his wine cup down. His gaze landed on Wan Miaoyan. Wan Miaoyan's looks were extraordinary and would naturally attract attention. This. Wan Qingshan's expression froze. Wan Miaoyan's eyes flashed with a strange light. This was the first time they met and he actually invited someone to drink with him. Such an abrupt action was extremely disrespectful. However, the other party was a descendant of an aristocrat clan in the royal capital. How could the Wan clan dare to offend him? Why? Are you not willing? The young man frowned as a cold intent gushed forth. The gazes of the people in the surroundings turned over. Some had looks of pity on their faces while others had the attitude of watching a good show. Naturally not. Wan Qingshan spoke. He turned his gaze to Qin Wentian. Jin, go and accompany young Master Duanmu for a drink. Wan Zhuqing and Jin's expressions both changed. The gaze of that young man shifted from Wan Miaoyan and landed on Jin. Jin's aura was simple and elegant, clean and transcendent. The young man's interest was piqued as he spoke, remove your veil. Jin clenched her fists as her body stiffened. Evidently, she was extremely unwilling to be threatened by a man. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with sharpness. He directly stared into the eyes of that young man and spoke, young Master Duanmu. Michem. The young man glanced at Qin Wentian as he frowned, did I speak to you? I only wish to ask what sort of aristocrat clan is the Duanmu clan in the royal capital. Is it an immortal emperor aristocrat clan or an immortal king aristocrat clan? Qin Wentian laughed. His eyes gleamed with a golden light, as though he could see through everything. The eyes of the young man flickered with a strange light. He suddenly had a feeling that all his secrets would be seen through by Qin Wentian's eyes. You, what did you say? The young man's voice turned cold. The old man in front of the Wan clan also radiated a cold intent as he coldly laughed at the Wan clan. Wan Qingshan's expression changed, impudent. Do you think you have the qualifications to speak here? Qin Wentian's gaze also turned sharp. Before this, on account of Wan Zhuqing, he couldn't be bothered with these words of contempt and couldn't be bothered with these people. However, Wan Qingshan didn't hesitate to push Qin away. How shameless. Qin Wentian finally understood why Wan Zhuqing asked him to come along. Most probably, Wan Zhuqing knew that it might not be a good thing for Jin to travel together with the Wan clan. As an elder of the Wan clan, the first thing you thought of when you encountered such a situation is to sacrifice your own niece. How shameless are you? Qin Wentian spoke in disdain. If you don't want to interfere, just ignore it. There's no need for you to interfere in our matters. You. Wan Qingshan didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so impudent. Wan Miaoyan also furrowed her brows. At this moment, Qin Wentian stared at the young man. When the dark north immortal mountain opens, there are all sorts of people here. Do you know that many people came from other smaller cities and didn't dare to offend anyone in the royal capital? You are making use of the fear of others to flaunt your might. Very smart. If there are people who were frightened and fainted, wouldn't your next step be to send them away with you? The expression of the young man changed. He stared at Qin Wentian. What are you talking about? Qin Wentian's lips curled up in a cold smile. Abruptly, a cold intent gushed forth as he roared, Scram! This voice was like thunder, causing many tables to buzz. The young man's heart pounded violently. He was frightened by Qin Wentian's gaze as his expression turned unsightly. Very well, just wait. The young man stood up, leaving behind a domineering voice. After that, he brought his guards and left, causing everyone to be taken aback. Since when is it your turn to interfere in the matters of my Wan clan? Wan Miaoyan frowned when she saw the young man leaving. If this young man truly had a powerful background, wouldn't her Wan clan be implicated? There's no need for me to interfere. Why didn't you directly accompany them earlier? Qin Wentian stared at Wan Miaoyan as he calmly spoke. Impudent. Wan Miaoyan's voice was extremely cold. But just as she spoke, she discovered that the young man had already retreated back to where they stood. In front of them, a few figures appeared. "Everyone, Junior has unintentionally offended all of you. Please forgive me." The young man's expression was extremely complicated as he clasped his hands. Before this, there were already many incidents of beautiful women being harmed in this region. "You were the one who did it, right?" At this moment, a young man who had been silent all this while calmly spoke, causing the gazes of everyone to turn over. "I don't understand what you're talking about." That person naturally denied. "It's fine even if you deny it. Since you dared to borrow the name of my Duanmu clan, you should know the ending." The young man calmly spoke. He slowly stood up and turned around. After that, everyone saw a handsome countenance that exuded an extraordinary aura. "Young master." Those who forced the young man back bowed in unison, causing the countenance of the fake young man to turn pale. "It's really the young master of the Duanmu clan." This time around, the people at the various tables all felt their hearts trembling. Who would have thought that there would be such a coincidence? The fake young master actually encountered the real young master of the Duanmu clan. This was simply a dead end. Chapter 1334. That fake young man had a fascinating expression on his face. He was proficient in the art of disguise, and right now, the appearance he was using was also fake. Every time he succeeded in impersonating someone, he would immediately change his identity and act extremely cautiously. In addition, he knew that there were many outsiders in this region. He was extremely clear about the thoughts of these outsiders, and they wouldn't dare to act recklessly or offend others. They couldn't afford to offend the major powers of the royal capital. Hence, he would naturally act cautiously. As long as he disguised himself well and was a little more domineering, he would be able to easily succeed. Even if he failed, he would still be able to leave easily. For example, this time, he heard the people of the Wan clan chatting. Wan Yao said that in the future, there would be several immortal kings in the Wan clan, and she was extremely excited. Clearly, this was a foreign immortal king power, and he didn't expect that his plan would be foiled by Qin Wentian. But it didn't matter, he could just leave. What's worse was that this fake young man encountered a real expert from the Duanmu clan. His expression changed. After that, with a thud, he directly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the young man. "I have eyes but failed to see. Young Master Duanmu, please spare my life. Clean this up cleanly." The young man from Duanmu clan calmly spoke. Momentarily, those experts who were blocking the way nodded their heads. After which, a terrifying aura gushed forth as several of them acted at the same time. In an instant, several terrifying finger strikes blasted out, directly landing on the young man kneeling on the ground as well as his guards. Those people didn't even have the time to react before they were all annihilated. All of them are immortal kings. The hearts of everyone trembled. Killing without leaving any traces. They directly carried the corpses away, and just like what the young man from the Duanmu clan said, they cleaned up the area cleanly. How tyrannical. Wan Yao sighed, her beautiful eyes staring at the young man from the Duanmu clan. This was what a true major character was like, direct and tyrannical. The people of the Wan clan all had a look of respect in their eyes when they stared at the young man from the Duanmu clan. A true major character truly had extraordinary demeanor, deciding the life and death of others with a single word. At this moment, the Duanmu young man turned to look at Qin Wentian and said calmly, "Previously, you asked me what kind of power the Duanmu clan is. In any case, no matter what kind of power it is, it's not something you can imagine." Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that earlier when he saw through the young man's scheme and asked if the Duanmu aristocrat clan was an immortal king power or an immortal emperor power, the true young lord of the Duanmu aristocrat clan would feel extremely unhappy when he heard it. Qin Wentian felt that Qin Wentian was ignorant and inexperienced. Hence, Qin Wentian intentionally replied to Qin Wentian. As expected, descendants from major clans would naturally be more arrogant. That's only natural. I hope young Master Duanmu can forgive this brat's arrogant words. Wan Qingshan quickly apologized and raised his cup. Thank you, young Master Duanmu, for helping me out this time. I'm very grateful. As he spoke, he downed the wine in his cup in one gulp. He didn't dare to propose a toast because he didn't have the qualifications to do so. The spectators all laughed. This was the difference between major characters and minor characters. Earlier, the impostor was able to deceive the Wan clan because the Wan clan was a minor character. They didn't dare to offend anyone and didn't even dare to probe the impostor's identity. They could only obediently sacrifice one person to save everyone else. Luckily, there was still a more powerful young man in the Wan clan who managed to chase the impostor away. However, this young man didn't receive the treatment of a hero. On the contrary, the beautiful young woman coldly said that there was no need for Qin Wentian to interfere. The people of the Wan clan also blamed Qin Wentian for being a busybody. But now, young Master Duanmu stood out and the people of the Wan clan immediately bowed respectfully, thanking him. Could it be that the person they should be grateful to wasn't the young man who came together with them? At this moment, the arrogance of major characters and the flattery and humility of minor characters were all clearly displayed. Qin Wentian could naturally see through all of this. From his particle world until now, he had experienced the sorrow of being a minor character and also the glory of being a major character. What had he not experienced before? Although the Wan clan could be considered a hegemon in Skyflame City, the humbleness in their bones could still be clearly seen here. These people made him feel pity, but naturally, he also hated them. How boring. Qin Wentian smiled at Jean as he shook his head lightly. You can still laugh. Jean's beautiful eyes flashed with a smile. Others are boring, but I can't be too boring myself. In addition, at the very least, there's an interesting beauty before me. Qin Wentian laughed suavely, not caring about the atmosphere at all. The Wan clan was a minor character and naturally, they wouldn't dare to speak carelessly. But he was different. So what if the Duanmu clan was an immortal emperor rank power? What did this have to do with him? Let alone people from immortal emperor ranked powers, even immortal emperors themselves wanted to kill him. Why would he care about the attitude of a junior from an immortal emperor rank power? Am I interesting? Jean blinked her eyes. You are much more interesting than them. Qin Wentian laughed. Enough. Only to hear Wan Miaoyan coldly berating, before this, for the sake of third uncle, I didn't hold it against you for the matter with Crimson Wing. Since you came here with my Wan clan, you should act according to the orders of my Wan clan. Now that you are acting so recklessly here, it's fine if something happens to you. Don't implicate my Wan clan as well. When did he implicate the Wan clan? At this moment, Jean stood up, staring at Wan Miaoyan. Staring at Jean's actions, a look of bewilderment appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Wan Miaoyan and the others were stunned as well. Jean, who had always stood aloof from worldly affairs, was actually going to fight now. However, for the sake of the Wan clan, she didn't fight before. But now, for the sake of an outsider, she actually wanted to fight against the Wan clan. Third brother, what a good daughter you taught. Wan Qingshan coldly spoke, his words causing Wan Zhuqing's expression to change. In truth, earlier when Wan Qingshan chose to sacrifice Jean so easily, how could he not be infuriated? It was just that he had been enduring it. But now, these people actually dared to speak in such a manner. Second uncle, you are an elder and I respect you. However, the earlier matters are very clear. You all are cowardly, pushing me to the side. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian stopping me, and if there weren't any true members of the Duanmu clan here, I would have already become your sacrificial lamb. Doesn't the Wan clan feel ashamed? At this moment, Qin Wentian stood out to save the face of the Wan clan. It's fine if you all don't feel grateful, but you even want to scold me? Jean wants to ask second uncle, does the Wan clan still have any dignity? Jean slowly spoke. Not fighting didn't mean that they wouldn't fight. Who didn't understand logic? This was especially so for such a simple matter. Right and wrong could be seen with a single glance. Impudent. Wan Qingshan's expression was extremely unsightly. He slammed his palm on the table as his countenance turned extremely cold. Why didn't I discover in the past that your mouth is so powerful? Wan Yao coldly spoke. Third brother, your daughter dared to talk back to an elder. What do you think we should do? Wan Qingshan's voice was ice cold. What's so difficult about that? I know second uncle and the others don't like me. I will just leave. Jean softly spoke, extremely calm. Hee, as expected, you have a rebellious heart and have never treated yourself as a member of the Wan clan. Wan Qingshan directly put a big hat on her head. Enough. At this moment, Wan Zhuqing suddenly roared, causing everyone to fall silent as they turned their gazes to him. Second brother, you should be very clear in your heart why my Wan clan came here this time around. What would it look like if we were to fight amongst ourselves? No matter what, I, Wan Zhuqing, am still the third brother of the Wan clan. If second brother still treats me as your younger brother, let's temporarily forget about this matter. Everything will be decided after we return to the Wan clan. Wan Zhuqing spoke in a loud voice. Wan Qingshan's eyes were cold as he spoke. Since third brother said this, I will temporarily forget about this matter. After we return to the Wan clan, the clan will naturally decide what to do. But as for that little friend of yours, it's best that she doesn't meddle in other people's business. If not, don't blame me for being impolite. If it doesn't implicate Jean, I can't be bothered to care about the matters of your Wan clan. Qin Wentian sat there, calmly speaking as though everything had nothing to do with him. Jean, let's go back and rest. Jean nodded lightly. After that, the two of them stood up and left. Siding with an outsider so quickly. But what's the difference between this man and that swindler from before? Third brother, you better watch over your daughter. Wan Qingshan coldly mocked. Wan Zhuqing unhappily flicked his sleeves and left. In the courtyard where Jean was staying, the melodious sound of a zither rang out, instantly blowing away all his worries. The boring matters earlier were all forgotten by Qin Wentian. He quietly laid down on the pillar of the pavilion opposite Jean, listening to this otherworldly zither music, forgetting about cultivation and relaxing himself. After the song ended, Qin Wentian's eyes were still closed but a smile appeared on his face. My mood is much better now. Jean, how can a place like the Wan clan have such a wondrous woman like you? How can I be considered a wondrous woman? Jean shook her head lightly. How can you not be considered? No matter from which aspect, you are superior to Wan Miaoyan, right? Qin Wentian laughed. Wan Miaoyan is the #1 genius and #1 beauty of our Wan clan. Jean spoke in a light voice. I can't be sure of your talent, but at the very least, in terms of beauty, you are definitely much more beautiful than her. Qin Wentian laughed. Jean started. She stared at Qin Wentian. You haven't even seen it before, how would you know? Intuition. Qin Wentian continued to lie there with his eyes closed. Maybe your intuition isn't right. Jean's voice was still as gentle as ever. Qin Wentian sat up and opened his eyes. He smiled and turned around. After that, his eyes froze as he stared at the maiden before him. Jean's veil hung at the side, her picturesque eyes were staring at him. The smile on her face was so pure and beautiful, without any impurities. My intuition isn't very accurate either. Qin Wentian seriously spoke. He shook his head. Your intuition is too bad. Comparing Wan Miaoyan to you is simply an insult to you. I also have a feeling. Before this, everyone here treated the Duanmu clan as a supreme character, yet you were so calm from the start to the end. Your gaze was like looking at an ordinary person. In that case, does this mean that in your eyes, even if the Duanmu clan is an immortal emperor-ranked power, you wouldn't care? Jean asked in a light voice. Qin Wentian stared at the pure and flawless beauty before him as he smiled. For those with pure hearts, their senses would naturally be much sharper compared to ordinary people. The vast majority of people in the world have their eyes covered with dirt, and there are some things that they wouldn't be able to see clearly even if they were placed before them. But you, because you aren't tainted by dirt, you can see things more clearly compared to ordinary people. Jin, I can be sure now that Wan Miaoyan's talent is also incomparable to yours. You have said so much. Does this mean that you acknowledge my words? Jin smiled. Naturally. Qin Wentian nodded. The two of them exchanged glances and laughed. Chapter 1335. As the date of the opening of the Dark North Immortal Mountain neared, more and more people gathered in this area, reaching a shocking number. There were geniuses from all over the world, people from all walks of life, good and bad mixed together. The people of the Wan clan had lowly attitudes as they roamed around, wanting to experience the splendor of the Great Thousand Worlds. Qin Wentian quietly stayed in the inn, occasionally comprehending and cultivating. Occasionally, he would admire the beauties, the melodious music from the zither, and the beautiful paintings. His life was incomparably contented. Finally, a piece of news was transmitted over, causing a commotion in this vast region. It was said that the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Bai Mingnongyue, has already arrived at the entrance of the Dark North Immortal Mountain, leading a group of experts from the dynasty. In fact, she was already preparing a grand banquet to welcome the experts from all over the empire. At the same time, she would also select the geniuses who had the qualifications to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Just like what the rumors said, the grand banquet this time around would be hosted by Princess Nongyue. At that time, countless geniuses from all over the empire would be able to witness the glory of Princess Nongyue. This was naturally a matter that caused everyone to be filled with anticipation. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom governed the world and the princess was the daughter of the king of the dynasty. Her authority towered up into the sky and she also had a peerless beauty. It was unknown how many people wanted to catch a glimpse of her beauty. In fact, there were many outstanding geniuses who dreamt that they would have a chance to gain the favor of the princess, allowing them to enter the empire one day and become the prince consort of the dynasty. Although this was an unrealistic fantasy, it would still cause one to be intoxicated. Just imagining it was already an extremely wondrous thing. Today, a group of powerful experts clad in black armor suddenly appeared in the airspace above this region. Their bodies exuded a supreme sharpness that brushed past the air. Each of them exuded an incomparably imposing aura, all of them were immortal kings. The entrance to the Dark North Immortal Mountain has already been opened. Princess Nongyue has set up a banquet to welcome the experts of the dynasty. For those who wish to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain or send them off, they can head over to participate in the banquet and enjoy the hospitality of the princess. A thunderous voice boomed out from the air, causing the entire region to tremble. In the air, those immortal kings exuded an imposing aura as they departed, returning to the entrance of the underworld Immortal Mountain. As for the people in this region, a commotion broke out. In an instant, countless figures soared up into the air, flying towards the same direction. Qin Wentian, Jin and Wan Zhuqing were together. When they inclined their heads, they saw that Wan Qingshan from the Wan clan had already brought his men and soared into the air. Wan Qingshan glanced at them before waving his hands, "Move out. Let's go. Let's go, let's go." Voices rose and fell, resounding through the void. Almost everyone in the inn set off. "Let's go." Wan Zhuqing spoke. After that, the three of them soared up into the air, heading towards the Wan clan. Although the relationship between both parties was already strained, everything can be resolved after they return to Skyflame City. Right now, there was nothing more important than sending Wan Miaoyan and Jin into the Dark North Immortal Mountain. There are really a lot of people. Qin Wentian glanced at the crowd in the air. The scale of this banquet seemed to surpass the Devil Emperor's birthday banquet back then on the fallen Devil Island. After all, there was a restriction on the number of people who could enter. But this time around, as long as one came from all directions, they could all enter. Although only a portion of people came every 10 years, it was still a terrifying number. To think that the person hosting this banquet would actually be Bai Mingnongyue. Qin Wentian smiled when he thought of this. Coming to the northern regions to temper himself, he would meet someone familiar so soon. What a coincidence. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was a mountain range of laws. No one knew how it was formed. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom naturally wanted to have absolute control over this treasure land and set a rule. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom would open the banquet once every 10 years. This way, countless young geniuses would come here every 10 years to increase the prestige of the empire. Such a grand banquet was naturally to let the experts from all directions see how powerful the Immortal Dynasty was, allowing those with ambition to join the army of the Immortal Dynasty in the future, and to serve the dynasty. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He followed the crowd and finally, he saw a boundlessly majestic mountain range. Over there, should be the Dark North Immortal Mountain. The Dark North Immortal Mountain naturally wasn't just a mountain, it was a mountain range of laws. Although they could see the Dark North Immortal Mountain, they were still very far away. After traveling for a long time, they finally arrived at the boundary of this region. Ahead of them, there was an army of immensely powerful immortal dynasties guarding the area. Before this army, there was a boundlessly vast empty space where a banquet was prepared to welcome the experts from the 8 powers. The crowd flashed and entered the banquet. Their gazes stared ahead, the Dark North Immortal Mountain was already very close to them. At the very front of the banquet, there was an extremely imposing towering platform formed from 99 steps of stairs. There were many seats on it, and all of them were for the major characters of the empire. And at the very top, there was a black throne. If one sat there, they would be able to see everything, able to see every corner of this banquet. This time around, that throne would be the seat of Princess Nongyue. More and more experts arrived as more and more people entered the banquet, casually finding a seat. Many of the more confident experts from the major powers all squeezed to the front, wanting to occupy a good seat so that they would be closer to Princess Nongyue. There were also many people discussing. The true entrance to the Dark North Immortal Mountain could already be seen. This time around, they wondered how Princess Nongyue would choose the people who could enter, or would she allow everyone to enter. However, such a thing was too rare. If everyone was allowed to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain, things would surely be chaotic and it might even affect those who truly needed to borrow the power of the Immortal Law Mountain for their cultivation. Hence, every time, there would be a limit to the number of people who could enter the mountain. Qin Wentian and the people of the Wan clan arrived at a location. They did their best to advance forward and found a good location. Wan Yao sighed, there are so many experts here. Skyflame City is truly too small. In the future, I don't even want to return. Yao, it's good that you have such thoughts. This world is very vast. When Princess Nongyue arrives, only when you see her glory would you know what a supreme character is. Princess Nongyue's age might even be younger than you. Wan Qingshan laughed. The people of the Wan clan were all filled with excitement as well as hints of nervousness. Only Wan Yiming and Wan Miaoyan had intense anticipation in their eyes. This time around, the Dark North Immortal Mountain was a great opportunity for them. They had to enter no matter what. Young Master Duanmu is over there. At this moment, Wan Yao called out in shock. Not far away, young Master Duanmu whom she met in the inn back then was standing there, surrounded by many people. Duanmu was the center of attention, casually standing there, but it was like he was the focal point of the crowd. Young Master Duanmu is a dragon among men. This is a character with true status. Miaoyan, I hope that one day, you or your husband would also be such a character. Wan Qingshan spoke to his daughter, his eyes filled with anticipation. Let's go over and greet him. A gentle smile appeared on Wan Yao's face. Right. Wan Qingshan nodded. Clearly, they weren't on the same level but they still wanted to get closer to him. Qin Wentian shook his head lightly when he saw this scene. This was the nature of humans, fawning on those in power. We pay our respects to young Master Duanmu. The people of the Wan clan walked over. The young Master Duanmu turned his head back, his expression was calm, exuding a faint sense of arrogance as he stared at the people of the Wan clan. Among these people, the only one who could enter his eyes, was none other than the beautiful Wan Miaoyan. Are you guys here for the Dark North Immortal Mountain as well? The young Master Duanmu calmly spoke. Emichum, this is my daughter Wan Miaoyan. This time around, we came here to send her and my nephew into the dark north immortal mountain. Wan Qingshan respectfully replied. The young master Duanmu glanced at Wan Miaoyan only to see a rare smile appearing on her cold face as she nodded to the young master Duanmu. Miss Miaoyan's aura is extraordinary, there won't be a problem. You guys can just sit here. The young master Duanmu waved his hand. Many thanks, young master Duanmu. Wan Qingshan respectfully thanked him. Being able to form a connection with such a character, it was truly an extremely good thing. Many people in the surroundings surveyed the people of the Wan clan. Since these people recognized the young master Duanmu, it was clear that they were all from the royal capital and their backgrounds weren't bad. They naturally wouldn't be surprised by such a thing. How could Duanmu care about these people? He only spoke a few sentences to them because of the beautiful women. If he had a chance to play with them, Duanmu naturally wouldn't mind it. In any case, they were the ones who delivered themselves to his doorstep. Duanmu, your luck with women isn't bad. Who is this beauty? Not far away, a young man asked despite knowing the answer. Earlier, he had already heard the conversation here but he still intentionally asked. Mu Qiu, don't talk nonsense. I just got acquainted with Miss Miaoyan. Duanmu stared at the young man as he spoke. Ha, it's good that we just got acquainted. Such a beauty, Duanmu, you just happen to lack a companion. Why don't you marry her? Mu Qiu laughed. After that, he turned to the people of the Wan clan. Naturally, we still have to listen to the opinions of the beautiful women and their family members. The tone of this person was extremely frivolous, yet at the same time, there was also a hint of politeness in it, as though he respected others. This was the style of people from aristocratic clans. If it was an ordinary person saying this, the people of the Wan clan would definitely be extremely unhappy, feeling that it was frivolous. But the person who spoke was someone with a status like Duanmu. In that case, things would naturally be different. In fact, Wan Qingshan's heart was filled with waves of excitement. I also hope that my daughter would be able to find a good husband. Wan Qingshan's skin was truly thick enough, he didn't even bother to speak tactfully. Wan Miaoyan seemed somewhat bashful as she stared at Wan Qingshan. Father, what nonsense are you talking about? Father is speaking the truth. Wan Qingshan laughed. Qin Wentian involuntarily laughed. This family was truly melodramatic enough. What kind of attitude did Wan Qingshan have before him? How cold was Wan Miaoyan? But now when facing Duanmu, how could there be any trace of reservedness? Could it be that they couldn't tell that this young man who came later had the intention to say these words? This was merely a game of life for people at their level. Naturally, this matter could only be seen clearly by bystanders. Given the status of someone from the Wan clan, to suddenly obtain such an opportunity, they should be extremely excited in their hearts.